Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 49 of Ono Anime, the podcast. It's 5:43 p.m. on Wednesday, November 29th, 2017. My name is Mark.
I'm Patrick.
And we got a fucking loaded baked potato of an episode for you today. It's got bacon on it. It's got chives. It's got all the good stuff. And I'm super...
So much butter.
I could not be more excited for today's episode. I might be more excited for today's episode than I have been for any episode we've ever done. Mostly because it involves possibly the most fan interaction we've ever had in an episode.
Which is important and good. We should do this more often.
So, yeah, here's what we're going to do. It's episode 49. It's one before the big 50, which we'll probably outline our plans on at the end of the episode. But as for today's episode, we are going to do a couple things. We're going to catch up real quick because it's been like 2 weeks since the last one of these. I have seen some shit between some non-seasonal shit. We're not going to talk about any of the seasonal stuff on this episode.
Not sorry.
This is going to be a longer, more ephemeral type episode where we're going to be discussing some other stuff. I don't know
if that's the word you were looking for. But
ephemeral,
we'll
yeah. It's going to be real wispy and wafy and weird.
It's not going to be able to see us.
We are going to be revisiting our ever popular, soon to be not new segment, My Ono Anime List. And then we are going to discuss some anime that are receiving their 20th anniversary this year, which means we're going to talk about the year that was in 1997, which is a hell of a year.
Yeah, they are now old enough to drink in Japan.
Yeah. And 1 year from being old enough to drink over here, which makes me want to throw myself off a goddamn bridge. And then we are going to answer a plethora of listener questions that we received on Twitter.
We had some really good ones.
Yeah, we had some really good ones. So we're super duper excited about those. This is really the first time we've ever done something like that. Mostly because it's the first time that we've ever demanded interaction from people that actually listen to this podcast. But so Patrick, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Dying mostly. I got sick. I'm just now getting over that. Of course, we had the awesome Thanksgiving holiday and a nice little Friendsgiving we attended. Other than that,
Friendsgiving was nice.
I caught up on anime. That was a big one.
Friendsgiving, nice. a surprisingly anime-free affair. It just kind of happened that way. But yeah,
we watched Mad Max.
We watched Mad Max, Fury Road, and The Fifth Element.
I feel like was there a third movie in there? No, Yakuza was in there.
Well, yeah. Okay, yeah, there was a little bit of anime in there, but yeah, we hosted a little Friendsgiving event that I've been wanting to do for many years at my apartment, and it was very nice. We had Mexican food because fuck Thanksgiving food 2 days after Thanksgiving, and yeah, I just decided to throw on. I had some records on in the background. I was like, well, I have Mad Max Fury Road in 4K, and I have a 4K TV. Might as well throw it on, and then my friend Nick was like, I've actually never seen this movie. And I was just like, well, now we're all watching this movie.
So we sat down and watched Fury Road.
So we did. And then I was just like, I should throw something on in the background now, thinking that we were all going to have stimulating conversation or whatever. And then we ended up just all eating so much Mexican food and watching The Fifth Element.
Having some damn good bourbon. Thank you for that.
Yeah. We polished off my bottle of Eagle Rare. Thank you, not Buffalo Trace.
I thought you were about to say Buffalo Wild Wings.
Like a more well-known distillery owns
it's some good stuff.
Eagle Rare is good shit, and it's hard to find down here. So, I can't wait till 3 years from now when I have my next bottle. Shout out to Old St. Pete Rum too. If you live in the Tampa Bay St. Pete area, go ahead and pick yourself up a bottle of Old St. Pete spiced rum. It is the greatest spiced rum I've ever drank in my entire life. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't think I've had any of that.
Yeah, it's that super ornate copper-colored bottle. Super flavorful, super spicy. Yeah. Right. I bring it to basically everything we do. Yeah.
Either that or Kraken.
It's really good. Yeah, I'm going to... That's some...
What's
just a straight up product placement. I believe in
Thanks for
Old
the sponsorship.
And it feels super good to be able to be because we have a ton of craft beer places around here that
they're not so much
that are at least famous in the Southeast, if not nationally. I know Jai Alai is basically everywhere in the U.S.
You
now.
can get that on cruise ships, dude.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
But it feels really good to have a local distillery, which is not really something that in this craft beer boom we have experienced too much of. So Yeah, go buy some Old St. Pete rum. They also make a gin too, which apparently is really good. I can't stand gins.
Yeah, I'm definitely more rum than gin.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I haven't really been doing too much other than watching anime, hitting the 95 grind like always.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm much different. Although I will say, and I'll keep this section brief because it's going to be fairly one-sided. I have watched some stuff. I have eliminated some things from my backlog. Granted, there were things that I didn't really have on my backlog that I realized I should have had on my backlog that I bought at AWA
that counts.
and haven't watched. But I watched Macross Plus, which was my first Macross series, even though Macross Plus is only 4 episodes. And I watched the Captain Harlock film from the early 80s, Arcadia of My Youth, or My Youth in Arcadia, whichever way you want to say it. Macross Plus was a hell of an experience. I'm really glad that it was my first Macross series because I feel like it, more than anything, probably has eased me into that series.
Yeah, that's I was talking in our line chat. That is, while it's still definitely Macross, not get me wrong, that is by far the least Macross of the Macross series, except for maybe 2.
It definitely seems like a really amazing introduction for someone like me.
No, it's
like
really
a very
good.
Big
It's
fan
small
of the
and bite size, and it really eases you into the idea of the thing.
It does a really good job of world building the Macross universe too. I mean, really in the first 2 episodes, they build this world Eden, which obviously is a new world for the Macross franchise. But then they revisit Earth, and you get to see the SDF and all the crazy city that's been built out around it, and it's really easy to follow what. I mean, I have a very cursory knowledge of the Macross universe going into this. I've kind of learned through osmosis what happens during the original SDF era. But it was really cool to watch something that was directly referential to that while also being its own thing.
It's kind of fun to discover a series. I won't say backwards, but just kind of get the periphery and then be like, oh, this is what I thought happened, and I can see now.
I mean, I'm like, Macross Plus has done for me what I didn't ever think it was going to do, which is just make me full all in on Macross. Like, I'm planning on going to
about time.
I know. I think I just needed it. I needed to see the right thing, and I did. And I mean, like, it's for anybody that ever has doubts about the Macross series, Macross Plus is definitely your number one must watch.
I would say out of that, or Do You Remember Love, which you haven't gotten to yet, but I feel like that's probably next on your list.
It definitely is. I need to go back there and then probably.
This is horrible, I don't know, but I love introducing Do You Remember Love, the most ambitious anime film ever drawn, until Akira 3 months later.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Poor guys. Well, and that, just, a brief background on Macross Plus. This was the thing that Shinichiro Watanabe and Yoko Kanno did before Cowboy Bebop. It was actually made 5 years before Cowboy Bebop ever aired, but it's a hell of an achievement, and it has a damn look for a thing that was made in 1994. There's a surprising amount of CGI in that thing, and it looks like legitimately good for the era.
It worked for the aesthetic they were going for. That's for sure.
And this is probably, in terms of Shinichiro Watanabe's work and Yoko Kanno's work, really, probably the closest thing I've ever seen to Cowboy Bebop that he has made stylistically.
I think that's completely fair.
It has a lot of it was so funny because for the first probably episode and a half of it, Kanno's soundtrack is very reminiscent of early 90s pop. It sounds a lot like Paula Abdul and Ace of Base, and it's her work on Sharon Apple is very much of the era to a ridiculously good degree, because it is everything that was cool about 90s pop music and none of the parts of it that were shitty. And then there's a scene where they transition from the downtown of Eden, which is very Fifth Element to me. It's very much reminiscent of that sort of very flamboyant 90s style, very colorful. And then it immediately snaps back to the desert where they're testing the 2 new Valkyries, and there's just the most fucking bluesy slide guitar, and I'm like, God, it was just this isn't really as much as Cowboy Bebop as I thought. And then as soon as I thought that, it's just I
had honestly, even though I know that it's Kanno and Watanabe, I'd never really thought about framing it next to Cowboy Bebop, but now that you say that, the whole Sharon Apple plot, if you put that in one episode, that could totally just be an episode of Bebop.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you can see them both working like it was almost as if they had used Macross Plus as a jumping off point to kind of get their idea across, to show what they could do like completely stylistically, because like I am genuinely amazed that anybody let them do what they did with Macross, because Macross seems like one of those very sacred franchises that has a very particular style that is not really ever deviated from. And granted, it's a fantastic style, and Shoji Kawamori is a genius, and he also obviously contributed a lot to the series. But Macross Plus really is defined by Shinichiro Watanabe's touch, and through him, Yoko Kanno. And yeah, it's completely different than any other Macross series to like a ridiculous degree. So like, good on whoever pulled that trigger, because it is a really awesome thing that everybody should totally see. And it is also one of the only 3 Macross series that actually was ever licensed in the States, and I own it on DVD. It's a Manga Entertainment release. I think the only way that you can still get it, obviously without paying an exorbitant amount of money for it on like eBay or whatever, Discotek Media has copies of it that they sell at their booths at conventions. Yeah. So if you have a local convention, check out whether or not Discotek is going to be there, because they come to basically every convention, every like sizable convention. Yeah, they're really good about old stuff like that that's out of print. And let me tell you, Macross Plus is out of print. Yeah, and the other thing I watched, speaking of things in the 80s, was Arcadia of My Youth, which is a 1982 origin story feature film for Captain Harlock, which is obviously Leiji Matsumoto's, like, one of his first characters and one of his most famous in Japan, not necessarily here. And it's also considered to be like kind of the center of the wheel that is the Matsumoto verse, which is, you know, like the whole Galaxy Express 999 thing. So that movie is really fucking good, and like shockingly so for how rough it is.
It's kind of Harlock in general.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Harlock in general, you know, until you start getting into like the newer stuff, which I don't think is as good as the original Harlock stuff, is very rough, because it's, you know, it's mostly a 1970s series. This was produced in 1982, but it looks fantastic for the year. But it's crazy to think that in the same decade we would have stuff like Do You Remember Love and Akira, which is, I mean, Akira is unfair to compare to any movie even today, because that thing is just, it's a technological achievement and an achievement of 2D animation that I don't think has ever been replicated, maybe. But yeah, it is. Like, the only thing I really have to say about it is Harlock is maybe my favorite, like, manly anime character, because he completely, like, my favorite thing about Harlock, and it's my favorite thing about really any Leiji Matsumoto work, is like, he's so out of his era in his depiction of like what is manly and what female characters should be doing.
It's Captain Garlock, man.
Yeah.
That's where Guard came from. You fat finger the G.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I you know, Harlock has some really remarkably strong and interesting female characters, especially Emeraldus, who is arguably as big of a character in Harlock lore as Harlock himself. But also Harlock, you can tell he just exudes this like supreme sense of like justice and equality for all people, not in like a contrived way like we have in the United States so many times with characters like that, but like truly. Like
I love it with him that this is less about Arcadia in My Youth and more about Harlock as a character. It's evident from episode 1 of the show too. Like the first episode is him like saving a little girl from a shitty life.
Yeah, like he's a space pirate, but like clearly only in name, like clearly only out of necessity.
What was that word Colbert used to use, like truthiness, but about justice?
Oh God, I don't know.
I don't know. He's a just pirate.
Yeah, basically. And yeah, like he has this line at the end of the movie, which like I just the pure poeticism of something has never made me laugh and cry at the same time. But it's a scene where like several characters die throughout the movie, like horrifically painful, sad deaths. And they have like a Star Trek 2, the end of Star Trek 2 scene where they like launch their bodies into space at the end. And he literally says something like, O Sea of Stars, we send our loved ones out into that justice may reign over this wonderful sea for all time. And I was just like, that is literally some of the most beautiful poetic shit I've ever heard in my life.
Thanks for that, Leiji-san.
Like, yeah, literally to hear like Harlock's very like deep, soothing voice just like kind of pat me on the shoulder and tell me that in 2017, which when I very, very like definitely need to hear that sort of thing, was really awesome. But yeah, I mean, it was a eye-openingly good movie. I was expecting to enjoy it. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I was. And also, that movie contains maybe one of the best space battles I've ever seen in any movie ever. The ending space battle between him and the like Illuminus commander is like, if I were to have been in the like same state as I am now, but in 1982 and had gone to see that movie, I literally would have not only seen it 10 times, but would have like shat bricks in the theater watching that. Cause it would be like how I would imagine people that first saw Star Wars probably would have reacted. Just be like,
I could see that.
I did not know you could do this.
Kind of had a similar effect for sci-fi and anime.
Yeah. Like it was and granted, like clearly a lot of it was, I could tell that Leiji Matsumoto and the people that worked on that movie had watched a lot of Star Wars, but had also watched a lot of like Tora and like, like old Battleship movies, because like literally, obviously Matsumoto is a huge, like Battleship nerd, because you can just see it in the way that he designs all of his spaceships. Obviously, like Yamato is like the
Yamato is
prime
literally
example,
a World War II ship.
But like even the design of the Arcadia, the original Arcadia, where it literally has like big 3-stack battleship guns on the top and bottom of the hull, like it's clearly, a love letter to battleships in a certain way. And like this scene where they're literally just like doing circles and broadsiding each other's ships on both sides, and the turrets are swinging around, and like it's so like weird and archaic, because there's like this whole scene where Tochiro, his main engineer on the Arcadia, the like short Japanese dude with glasses, they have like a manual gun sight on the ship that's literally just like the gun sight from a Focke-Wulf fighter from World War II. And the whole backstory behind it is like one of Harlock's ancestors, Phantom F. Harlock II, was like a Nazi fighter pilot in World War II, and like happened to meet Tochiro's ancestor, who was like an engineer, and like flew him to safety in Switzerland, and then Harlock crossed the river to meet the French resistance to pay for his crimes. Because he's fucking Harlock.
It's the most Matsumoto thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
in my
it's
life.
crazy. But like then the final scene in the movie is they're like, "Sir, the sights are out. I can't aim." And Harlock's like, "Wait, I have something." And he like pulls open this drawer, and it's the sight that Harlock's ancestor like gave Tochiro's ancestor like hundreds of years previous. And they like send him up into the crow's nest in a spaceship. And like he literally, there's like a scene where he's like literally like manually aiming the guns, and you can like see down past him, and the guns are like swinging around. It's the coolest looking shit I've ever seen, and it's like rough and choppy like all old animation is. But I was just like, it
don't matter if anything that adds to it,
dude. I could not believe that they could do any of that, like any of the like crazy like 3D scenes of the ships passing one another, and they're like all changing perspective. I was just like, man, like this must have been so groundbreaking back in the day. Director. Yeah, I mean it was a hell of an experience for sure. So Discotek has licensed that movie, and it's on Blu-ray, and the master is amazing looking. Like just like if you thought those Evangelion masters looked good in pure HD from that Blu-ray box set, like this shit is just
looks better than that.
It looks better than that in the sense that you look like you're watching just the film, just the raw film.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. And it's perfect and imperfect in the most perfect way, in the sense that you can tell they were mastering this off of like a very old piece of film that maybe was not taken care of in the greatest way in certain parts. But
yeah. Shit happens.
No, it's the way, the fact that they even were able to release it on Blu-ray at all is kind of crazy. So yeah, go check that out. It's a really good movie. So you want to jump into my Ono anime list?
God, I literally forgot that we named it that.
I mean, there's literally no better name for it, and we mean that we can't think of a better name for it.
If you have one, please save us.
If you have a better name for it, please send it to us on Twitter at OhNoAnime. So my Ohno Anime List, of course, is the segment where we take the episode number and match it up to an anime on one of my anime lists.
One of about 3,000 lists, so we can talk about what we want
to. That we can pick and choose something to actually talk about. This is a timely one. I looked on my anime list's top OVA series list. And I was actually surprised that this is as far down as it is, given its popularity in the States. But number 49 is Fooly Cooly.
What's that? Never heard of it.
It's only one of the most popular and influential anime series of all time.
One of the things we've talked about the
most. As we said in our first short form video, Fooly Cooly and the West.
Was that really the first one? Dang.
That was the first one I ever edited in Premiere.
Fooly Cooly. So we've talked a lot about Fooly Cooly on the show. Have we talked about our first experiences with it?
I'm sure we have. No point in not rehashing that though. Let's get into it.
So it's funny I bring that up because for those of you who don't know our recording situation, I'm actually this is one of the rooms in an old family friend's house. One of my best friends from kindergarten, and the first time I watched Fooly Cooly was on a small TV in this room on Adult Swim.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah,
holy shit!
How crazy is that?
There's actual history in this room.
So there you go. That's why we're here today.
Yeah, no, I have actually a very similar situation to that. I remember sometime in middle school, probably right around when they had first released Fooly Cooly on DVD. One of our friends invited me over to his house, and we sat in the dark very late at night and watched this fucking weird thing that I couldn't wrap my head around and didn't understand it.
I had no idea what was going on. I didn't give it a proper watch until several years later, but I still remembered. Oh, it's Fooly Cooly.
It didn't take me probably until 5 full watches later for me to start getting that I probably was not supposed to get what was happening in Fooly Cooly. There's nothing to
There were a lot of arguments about what it meant.
Yeah.
Until eventually you go, eh.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a thing that was made more as an experimental animation exercise by Gainax than an actual... I mean, it was an actual serious thing, and they put it out to make money, but they also, used it as this kind of test bed. Kind of, I would imagine, even a less committed version of what Space Dandy was for Modern Bones, in the sense that they just kind of let whoever wanted to come in and go wild on it go wild.
I believe this is the first one where they where Gainax experimented heavily with digital creation.
Exactly.
I know it was a lot of them flexing their muscles there and seeing what they can't do.
Yeah, and they did just about everything that they could possibly do in that era, including a full-on South Park sequence with 2D paper-on-paper animation.
And the manga sequence was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, the manga sequence is really cool. And this obviously the music was something that always stuck with me. Anyone that's watched our channel knows Pillows are one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band, at least definitely my favorite Japanese musical act of all time. But the music wasn't really it always stuck with me, but I never I always had my brushes with it where I would just download all the soundtracks. I did it a couple times in high school, and then I did it again in college and actually started to listen to it and appreciate it more and realize this is actually very different than any rock music I've ever listened to ever. It very much slotted into this sort of silly but also highly emotional and very particular sounding type of thing that I was into in college. And I
think soundtrack for puberty.
Yeah. Obviously Fooly Cooly is a thing that many people our age grew up on, be it if you got the DVD when it came out somehow, or saw it on Adult Swim for the first time, which I actually think they aired it on Adult Swim before it ever came out on DVD.
Yeah,
but
they did.
Adult Swim was definitely they were on their shit. They knew they knew who was watching Adult Swim, and they knew that it wasn't adults.
How's that for irony?
Yeah. But yeah, Fooly Cooly I think is again one of the weirdest anime situations of all time, and I think something that probably still perplexes Gainax and the people that own the rights to it to this day, because that thing made no impact in Japan. I don't want to say no impact, but compared to the impact it made in the States, it made no fucking impact.
You can never tell. And it's funny because other things like that, like when Cowboy Bebop was made, and we know this from interviews, like they kind of knew this is going to do well in America. Like they had that in mind. Fully Cooley, fuck no.
No. Again, Fully Cooley was not something that was made with any particular audience in mind. It was not aiming at success. It was aiming at an experiment, a grand experiment that paid off for 15 years later. For Gainax. And so its success is completely inexplicable, but that makes total sense because Fully Cooley in itself is completely inexplicable and doesn't really exist for any particular reason, and that is a very poetic that's a very poetic way to look at that show, I think. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't think it's even with that trailer, I don't think it's sunk in that we're getting more of it yet. And
I don't think it will until it's all over. I'll be like, what?
But everything I'm hearing about that thing, just every time I hear more about it, it makes me more excited. Every time I think about the fact that Production IG is very clearly trying to do their damnedest in making sure that like animators who are known for their style and also young animators are working on that thing. And the fact that they're working so much with Bones makes me incredibly excited because it means
I can't even imagine.
Maybe, just maybe, we will see a Yutaka Nakamura Fully Cooley cut, which would just be... I can't even imagine what it would be.
We're going to see Mark Ahegao. That's what we're going to see.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it all. And I cannot believe that my first experience watching it will be on live terrestrial television in English, which is the only way to watch Fully Cooley, in my opinion. That English dub is also the most, next to Cowboy Bebop, it is the most immaculate English dub I've ever heard of anything. Like it is, and like, you know, not for nothing. Like I've definitely heard more than one of the people that worked on that show, including Kazuya Tsurumaki, basically just be like, I can't believe you guys got this right. Because Kari Walgren's performance as Haruko is the most picture perfect, identical sounding thing to oh god, why can't I remember her name? Oh, this is really bad. She's like one of my favorite seiyuu.
Is it like Iwai or something? She's got a non-traditional name.
I'm so mad that I can't remember. What is her fucking name? I'm so mad. Mayumi Shintani. Yeah.
Well, no Iwai there.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So, yeah, if you haven't seen Fully Cooley, do the thing.
Fix that. Fix yourself if you haven't.
And I guess we don't usually talk this far ahead, but we might as well talk about it now because we're not going to get a better chance to talk about it. We are going to try, if Adult Swim doesn't pull a Rick and Morty on us and just like drop the first episode without any warning.
April 1st, here it goes.
We're going to try to take a few weeks before the premiere of the sequel and do like some re-examination, like a series of re-examinations, 3 episodes, 2 episodes of Fully Cooley per episode, where we literally sit down right before we do the thing, watch the 2 episodes, and then talk about them for however long, and then probably do some sort of live stream or something.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure that part out, but we're definitely going to do that if we can, if Adult Swim doesn't fuck us, which they very well could.
That would be a very Adult Swim thing to do.
Yeah, they have their reasons, and that's all right. All right, so that was my Ono anime list. Why don't we move into the segment I am possibly most excited about, or at least tied in being most excited about? We're going to talk about anime that are receiving their 20th. They're having their 20th birthday this year, Patrick. in one way or another, either they began in 1997 or they ended in 1997 and are notable enough to talk about or at least mention. But before we dive into anime. I want to set up the time period we're thinking of right now.
What are you doing?
We're going to talk about some of the stuff outside of anime that was happening in 1997.
Oh, gods.
So in 1997, these are major world events, and then we're going to go into...
I thought you were about to play some music or something.
No.
I was like mentally prepping for NSYNC or
This is probably
Boys.
a little more serious than what you're thinking, but mostly because, Anyway, we're going to do like world spanning or very famous events, and then we're going to talk about what was happening in Japan. So in 1997, Hong Kong became independent, was handed back from the British to mainland China. Dolly the sheep was cloned in 1997.
Come a long way.
The Heaven's Gate cult mass suicide happened in San Diego.
Love being reminded of that one.
Yeah, there is a fantastic... Well, I will use this as a opportunity to plug the podcast called Heaven's Gate. It's hosted by Glenn Washington, who hosts Snap Judgment on NPR. It's a fantastic radio host. It's on Stitcher Premium. Go listen to it. It's really fucking good. It's about the cult. And speaking of Heaven's Gate, this was also when the comet Hale-Bopp was first spotted and made its very famous pass on Earth in 1997. Probably the one that most of us who are alive would remember, if not, anyone, is Princess Diana died in 1997. Yeah. And also, Tupac and Biggie both died in 1997.
Man, what a shit year.
Yeah, 1997, not great. Well, okay, well, let's. I mean, these last three, they're huge. They're huge. They're cultural touchdowns. Titanic was released in 1997.
Okay.
Harry Potter was first published in 1997.
Oh, fuck.
And Hanson released their debut album in 1997. Bop.
Never mind. 2017 was great.
Yeah. 2017.
Not great. 2017.
97, even better. So in Japan, to get a little bit more specific and to frame this around a little bit more around anime, the Osaka Dome was completed. The Tokyo Nagano Shinkansen line was first completed, which is crazy to think of Japan that doesn't have Shinkansen lines. The pioneering MMA organization Pride Fighting Championships held its first event at the Tokyo Dome.
Dang.
This is probably one of the biggest ones. The Kyoto Protocol meetings were undertaken, and the Kyoto Protocol,
talking about those today.
Adopted, was held in Kyoto in 1997. The Tokyo Bay Aqua Line opened in 1997, which is that crazy undersea tunnel that goes under Tokyo Bay. Also,
it's a quick way to get to Disney.
Yes, also appears in the 2004 live-action Cutie Honey movie, where
and
they do battle with Goldclaw from Panther Claw. Another one that everybody our age would know, Denno Senshi Porygon, an episode of Pokemon, airs and causes epileptic seizures in children across Japan. A huge one, and trust me, we'll be getting to Pokemon because it's a big 97 thing. And finally, the Toyota Prius Hybrid is unveiled for the first time in 1997, which I didn't know the Prius was that old.
Japan had a year.
Yeah, Japan had a hell of a year. Probably a better year than the rest of the world. Well, actually, probably not. It was during the Lost Decade. That was not a great time for Japan. Sure, we're building a lot of things, though. Anyway, so with that in mind, you guys know what's happening in the world of 1997. It's a very weird time, very interesting time. So it must be a very interesting time for anime. And let me tell you, it was. 97, as we'll see with this list, everybody... A lot of like the big complaint that seems to be happening in the world today in reference to pop culture, specifically movies, and also I've noticed it creeping into anime a lot too, is people bitching about reboots and like remakes and stuff. And let me tell you, anime had a real big head start on that shit, and 97 was a huge year for it. Let me tell you. So let's jump into it. The first series that I'm going to give to you is the first adaptation of Kentaro Miura's legendary medieval fantasy manga, Berserk.
The only adaptation.
The only adaptation as far as we're concerned, other than the Golden Age movies, which weren't terrible.
They were pretty good.
It was a TV anime that ran for 25 episodes. The studio, of course, was Oriental Light and Magic, which is surprising given that
OLM was all over the place back then, though.
But they made Pokemon.
They still make Pokemon.
They made the original Utawara Eromono, Underwater Rei Romano, and they also made Yamato 2199, which is a fairly recent adaptation from them. We have some notable cast. Obviously, Toshiyuki Morikawa as Griffith. He's still Griffith to this day. Akira Ashida as Judo, and Unsho Ishizuka as the narrator. He was a big narrator back then. This is something that I did not know. The one and only Yoshihiko Umakoshi was the character designer.
I did know that.
I did not know that at all.
You can't really tell without looking that up because none of the like distinct Umakoshi style is there.
Yeah.
So I think this might have been his earliest character design role, which goes to show you how long he's been in the industry, because character designers are normally key animators for a long time before they get designed.
Well, and he was.
Yeah.
But those of you that aren't familiar with that name, he was a character designer on My Hero Academia, Kasser and Sins, Guyver the Bio-Boosted Armor. Well, actually, that was way before. That was before Berserk. Right. So yeah, Heartcatch Precure, Mushishi, and he's also a veteran key animator, which we mentioned.
When he shows up to animate something, especially with his designs, you notice. You might not know that it's him, but you're just like, oh, whoa, what happened?
And you'll notice that his character design work is very like broad, and that's because I think he's like particularly known in his character designer role as being ridiculously good at adapting existing designs for animation. I mean, God knows My Hero Academia is a fucking work of art.
That might be his best adaptation work. I personally love his original stuff, like the Heartcatch Precure designs.
Yeah,
are probably some of my favorites ever. I have the newest Saint Seiya on there. He did Saint Seiya Omega.
Oh yeah,
which is a big deal too, because that like bleeds Umakoshi.
Yeah. The next anime I want to mention to you is a little show called Cutie Honey Flash, which I actually did not know a whole lot about before I did some research on it. So this is a reboot of Go Nagai's pioneering magical girl manga from the 70s.
I forget that's Nagai.
Yeah. It actually replaced Sailor Stars, which is Sailor Moon anime, in the same time slot and featured much of the same animation staff as Sailor Moon. It was actually a Cutie Honey reboot that was aimed at a more traditional magical girl audience. This was a TV anime that ran for 39 episodes. Obviously, studio is Toei. The director was Norio Sasaki, who directed some episodes of Sailor Moon. He also directed some Precure series, as well as some Zatch Bell episodes and storyboards.
For a while, I know he did. I'm pretty sure he did the OG Precure.
This was I think this was his first series director.
Yeah, I haven't seen all of this. I've seen a couple episodes. I remember starting it and then just forgetting. It was, as far as Cutie Honey goes, it is definitely not the most memorable Cutie Honey.
No, and mostly because they were trying to make Cutie Honey appeal to people that like Sailor Moon, and
that's
I will say the look of the thing is very good, but it also looks a lot like Sailor Moon,
which is very good.
Yeah. The animation director and character design was both handled by Miho Shimogasa, who was the Sailor Moon animation director, and probably was one of the people, other than probably Ikuhara, who gave it its very distinctive look and feel. She also is famous for basically single-handedly making the opening and ending animation for Prince of Tennis, the first one.
That's impressive, because those are kind of nuts.
Yeah. Music is by Toshihiko Sahashi, who is ridiculously all over the place with his compositions. Big O, Full Metal Panic, Hunter x Hunter, Gundam Seed, and Steel Angel Kurumi.
Sorry, I haven't heard that name in so long. That was the first anime I ever got from Blockbuster. Holy shit.
Well, there you go.
I'm glad my parents didn't fucking catch me watching
Jesus Christ. Yeah. So that's Cutie Honey Flash.
Spat on my water.
Not the best Cutie Honey series. Not the best version of the Cutie Honey theme either. No. It wasn't even the Cutie Honey theme. Speaking of reboots, let's talk about Speed Racer X.
I haven't seen this one.
Oh, I guarantee you've seen it.
I know it was on TV here. I believe it made it over here at some point, but I never made like an effort to watch it and be like, I'm watching Speed Racer.
Okay, so here's the deal. Speed Racer X, originally called Mach Go Go Go. I think it was just called Mach Go Go Go, which is the original name of the original anime. It is a straight up remake of the original 1967 anime. It was on TV for 34 episodes. Studio is Tatsunoko Production, which was eye-opening. I did not know that was them, but I guess they were one of like two animation studios back in the day.
Tatsupro did everything back then.
This reboot actually, shockingly to me, retained a lot of the original staff from like the 67 Speed Racer anime, including the director, Hiroshi Sasagawa, who get ready for his credits because they are off the fucking chain. He directed the original Speed Racer. He also directed original parts or all of Yatterman, Time Bokan, Voltron, Kasan, and Gatchaman.
So basically, he was the driving force behind most of like OG Tatsu Pro.
Yes,
that's
like he basically directed almost every original
made
show.
the Saturday morning block in Japan. It was that guy.
He is responsible for it. Yeah,
that's really cool.
It's kind of insane.
I'd love to pick his brain. I need to go look for some like interviews or something.
I know, for real. I mean, he's got to be just the wisest, oldest man. He's been working in anime since 1967. Yeah. The music was handled by a name that you would be familiar with, Michiro Oshima, who of course is the Little Witch Academia composer, but also did Full Metal Alchemist, Beck, which I was surprised about, Arc the Lad, Patema Inverted, and the Tatami Galaxy, among many others.
Did Sorno Oto is probably my favorite of theirs.
Yeah, she's.
Sorno Oto's amazing.
I love her. She's very good, very orchestra focused, which is a rarity in today's anime climate. I'm going to read you a excerpt from the Wikipedia article about this show's localization history because it is fucked, almost as fucked as Macross. It has a sordid localization history in the U.S. It was originally planned for release in 1998 as Speed Racer Y2K, which is a fucking great name, but that effort failed with only the third episode being dubbed. It was released again as Speed Racer X by DIC Entertainment. It's Dick. Big D, small I, big C.
I remember Dick.
Yeah, as part of Nickelodeon's short-lived action block, but was taken off the air after 13 episodes due to a legal dispute. This will sound familiar. Between Dick and Santa Monica-based Speed Racer Enterprises, which owned the American rights to the series. Sounds familiar, I wrote.
Yeah.
Funimation is actually releasing the original Japanese version as Mach Go 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 Restart as a sub-only release, and I'm assuming that is probably going to be part of that crazy box set that's just Speed's head.
Yeah, I did see that. And I was kind of thinking about getting that for my dad. Because the only two anime my dad have ever seen are Erased and Speed Racer.
I actually did see Speed Racer X when it was on Nickelodeon. I saw almost all the episodes that they aired. I fucking loved it. Yeah. I have not watched it since, but I can only imagine that it is aged very well.
Don't ruin those memories, Mark. Hold on to them.
I can only imagine it was the most forward-looking anime of all time. When was the
last time you saw the original Speed Racer? Because that has not aged well either.
I'll tell you what. The last time I've done anything Speed Racer, other than seeing that fucking movie, the Wachowski brothers movie, which I have very conflicting opinions on. Wachowski siblings, or I guess Wachowski sisters now. Yeah,
I think they still go by siblings.
Yeah,
I think that's what they've
Wachowski siblings is probably the best way to address them. But that movie. Other than that, there was a Speed Racer PS1 game that I rented from Blockbuster. Speaking of renting things from Blockbuster,
the Blockbuster episode.
Yes, the Blockbuster episode. I rented a Speed Racer PS1 game from Blockbuster, and it was fucking great. I loved it as a kid, and I'm sure it's aged gracefully and amazingly.
Listen, I love the Wachowski siblings film. I'm still in that habit from like the early 2000s, but the thing is, it's awful, but it's also the most Speed Racer thing ever.
It is. I mean,
as far as adapting Speed Racer into live action,
clearly the most faithful adaptation of Speed Racer anyone could have ever done, and it's flopped hard. Okay, Patrick, how about this? Evangelion Death and Rebirth and the End of Evangelion came out in 1997.
It sure was that year, wasn't
it? We have talked enough about both of those things, I think. Maybe not enough specifically. Of course, they were directed by the one and only Hideaki Anno. Also, Kazuya Tsurumaki and Masayuki worked on both of them, which I guess would have been their first time working in directorial positions. So I really liked reading the Wikipedia article for this because it seems like these two things release, especially in the West, were, again, a fucking mess. So here are some excerpts. The English production made several, and this is referring to the localization, in the English dub. The English production made similar creative changes in the dubbing of the film as had been made to the end of Evangelion. One notable change was the alteration of the sound effect between the scene featuring Kaji to one of Shinji informing Asuka of his death. According to the DVD commentary, English ADR director Amanda Windley, which we actually saw at AX that one year when that terrible event, also the voice of Rei in the dub, felt the sound was not a proper gunshot and replaced it with a more overt effect. However, the Japanese screenplay mentions that the sound effect is not a gunshot at all, but rather the sound of a slap. The following scene implies Asuka has slapped Shinji's face. Good job, late 90s dubbing studios.
ADR was not what it is now.
Yeah. Here's a further excerpts. Evangelion Death, True, in parentheses, screened, which is of course the most Evangelion name you could have possibly given a re-release, screened on January 2nd, 1998 on the Japanese satellite TV channel Wow Wow. This version of Evangelion Death was personally re-edited by Masayuki, removing much of the new footage from episodes 21 through 24. Another version titled Revival of Evangelion was released on March 8th, 1998, and is a unification of the movies Death True squared, a further edit of Death True, with a few removed shots edited back in, and the end of Evangelion. It is considered the final form of the Evangelion movies, which has been released in several forms prior to Revival. The two were released on the 9th and 10th discs of the Renewal of Evangelion box set with the labels of Revival of Evangelion and Evangelion, the feature film. Death True squared is also the version released in the West.
Jesus, I did not know it had that crazy ass history over there.
I did not know it either. It's basically like Blade Runner level like re-edits over the years.
Which one's the real one?
What a fucking mess. Just like those two movies.
Oh, God.
I unironically love the end of Evangelion only because it was a thing they probably never should have done. It was the Mass Effect 3 fixing its ending DLC.
It also gave us Kamsustatat.
Yes, of course.
That's very important.
You're right.
That song plays as I go to sleep every night.
Yeah. Oh, well, and Death and Rebirth gave us Tamashii no Refrain, so there is that.
Yeah, there are those. Thank you for the music.
Hey, thanks for the music, Ava. Another very big release in 1997 was Gundam Wing Endless Waltz, possibly one of the most iconic Gundam releases ever.
It's pretty important.
And fitting because we're going to be talking about Gundam a little bit later in the questions section. So this was a sequel OVA to the original Gundam Wing. I didn't really want to put sequels on here too much, but obviously Endless Waltz is like one of the most iconic sequels of all time.
Especially in the US.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a thing
deal.
that I constantly see stuff from, like even today. It was an OVA. It was only 3 episodes. Obviously, the studio's Sunrise. Interesting story about the mecha design. So Hajime Katoki, who did the mecha design, he also did the mecha design on like 8th MS Team. He was the mech designer on Virtual On and Police Knots, and also the second Pat Labor movie. He redesigned all 5 of the main Gundams for Endless Waltz, with the sequel eventually retconning their appearances entirely as if the original designs never existed.
Sure.
Kind of like what the Halo games did after 343 took them on. Despite this, Katoki's designs for Endless Waltz remain some of Gundam's most iconic, especially the one that I always recognize from it, which is the Angel-winged Wing Gundam Zero. That is possibly one of the greatest Gundam designs of all time.
It's really good.
And it's one that I see everybody who does Gunpla has one.
Mm-hmm. You can still get it at every convention. It's always right up top. That was the first Gunpla I ever saw. My neighbor John Keller had one.
It is like legitimately probably one of the most popular Gundam designs of all time. Other than like the original RX-78, it's huge. The music was done by a gentleman named Ko Otani, who up until that point had really stayed near live action films. He actually did the score of the Gamera film trilogy. He also did the score for Shadow of the Colossus, and then his anime work kind of extended out to like Outlaw Star, Zatch Bell, and Eyeshield 21. Zatch Bell coming
City
up.
Hunter.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. He has had a very long career, as anyone involved in these anime from over 20 years ago would know.
I like him for Haibane Renmei. Sorry, how to get that in. Haibane Renmei had like a really atmospheric soundtrack, much like Oshima Michiru.
So for anybody that has been looking for Endless Waltz on an official release in the US, obviously Bandai Entertainment went out of business a couple years ago, and all the Gundams everywhere basically went out of print simultaneously. However, since Bandai is starting to re-release a lot of their stuff on Blu-ray here, Right Stuf is actually releasing Endless Waltz on Blu-ray next month in December 2017. So a very timely thing to talk about. And I highly suggest you go check it out if you're a fan of Wing Gundam at all. It's so cool. Those mecha designs are like, and I don't want to like use my jerking off about the Wing Gundam Zero as like an excuse for you guys to think that I don't also like all the other. Because like the Death Scythe Hell is one of the coolest fucking things I've ever seen, even though it's like also one of the chuniest things I've ever seen.
I mean,
in anime.
Chuny Gundams are
are the best Gundams.
Chuny mobile suits, excuse me.
What is it, like Gundam The End or whatever from the one with the fucking revolver and the cape?
Yeah, the cape. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's dope. So there's just something I want to mention just really briefly. There's this like show that I don't think very many people would remember. It's called Pokemon. It premiered in 1997.
That's that wouldn't be the same Pokemon that's like one of the like craziest franchises of all time.
I
think second only to like Star Wars and maybe the Bible.
Know. I've never heard of Pokemon before. Yeah,
that's crazy though. 97.
Yeah,
Pokemon.
It doesn't seem like it's that old.
My favorite thing is like recalling back then all the parents and a lot of kids saying, "Oh, Pokemon's just a fad." Yeah, well, fuck you.
Nope.
Here we are. I just watched a Pokemon movie in the theater a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I love that.
Pokemon, the original series ran for 276 episodes, but that's a stupid comparison because everyone knows that Pokemon has not had a break.
No, we're still going, and it's series like ended. Better than ever. Like,
yeah,
holy shit!
Sun and Moon is a crazy good.
Sun and Moon is great, and even the previous one, the XY and XXYY were fantastic.
It's Pokemon's a crazy thing, and I don't think we need to talk about it any further than that because if you're watching this show and you don't know about the Pokemon anime, then you must be a Warui Chujin. Let's talk about a show that I know a lot of people on Twitter like.
Is that all you know about this show?
No, I know a lot more about it than that. But I do. You can't tell me that a lot of people on Twitter don't constantly jerk off about this show.
I mean, deservedly.
Yes.
Are we going to talk about what show it is?
It's called Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Oh, that Revolution.
It is a legendary adaptation of Chiho Saito's 1996 manga. Its TV anime ran for 39 episodes, which was a pretty popular number in the 90s. Obviously, the director is Kunihiko Ikuhara. This was his directorial...
This was his coming out.
This was his genesis as a director. Still probably the best thing he's ever done. Still probably the most renowned
it's definitely the most beloved
he's ever
thing
done.
He's done.
Yeah.
No question.
I don't know. I mean, he also was the director of Sailor Moon R and S. So those are pretty well beloved. That's probably the closest. But yeah, this is his thing. This is his ultimate work.
Utena was so before its time.
Yeah.
It's still before its time.
Here's the thing I did not know. This was a JC Staff anime.
Uh-huh. JC Staff is going through a couple transformations
that are artsy fartsy and weird. I don't think of JC Staff, but hey,
any company that's been around that long has weird shit. Like we were talking about OLM earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. We have a shocking amount of notable cast, not only in starring roles but also like in the background.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hikaru Midorikawa, who has been around forever, is Soji Mikage, and Takehiro Koyasu, Dio himself. Was Toga Kiryu, which is a great name. But also in background roles as like unnamed characters, we have the likes of Hiroyuki Yoshino, Kenichi Suzumura, Kentaro Ito, and that's it. I forgot the Oxford comma. All right. So obviously Utena is a groundbreaking show not only for the magical girl genre but for anime in general.
It's a big deal.
It's a crazy thing. It's the most aesthetic thing maybe of the entire 90s.
How much of it have you seen? Have you started it? None.
Zero. Ooh. I'm waiting until after our 50th episode to start. Okay. Because it's definitely on my list.
Yeah, it's a trip, man. I'm not going to pretend like every episode is good, but it is.
I don't know how I'm going to react to it because so far, I'm. This is going to make a lot of people mad. Not a huge fan of Ikuhara. I realize why people love his works. They just.
What was the first one you watched though? Yuriko Marushi?
Yes.
Because that is by far his weakest.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. I have given Penguin Drum a shot, and
The thing with Penguin Drum is if I hadn't watched it with the subs.
I'm bearing the lead here. I obviously really fucking like the original Sailor Moon. I'm not going to sit here and say that his work on that wasn't probably the reason why I liked it as much as I did. But
it's amazing.
That also was Sailor Moon.
As far as Penguin Drum is concerned, like if I hadn't watched it with the cultural notes that I did when it was being fan subbed, the translator went through like painstaking lengths to put everything into cultural context that otherwise I would have had no idea about. And it really cleaned up a lot of like the crazy imagery. The imagery used in Utena, since we're talking about Utena, is a lot less pop culture. A lot less current event like based. It's all, the imagery is really personal and emotional, as opposed to Penguin Drum, where it's alluding to things that if you don't know they exist, it's just fucking weird.
Yeah, what I was reading about it last night definitely seemed to be selling it to me as like almost a grand theatrical production.
Oh yeah, anything absolutely. Else. They literally draw curtains on scenes, and the crowd talks at some point.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like there's silhouettes of two girls talking about the events going on.
And we'll actually get to that in a second, because the release of this thing and things that have happened after it are very theater focused. The music was done by two people. One of them goes by J.A. Caesar, even though he is spelled Seazer, which I think stands for Julius Albrecht Caesar. Sure. He is a weird experimental theater musician from the 60s, and this is one of the only anime he's ever done. He did all the battle themes. And then Shinkichi
Mokushiroku. Got it. That's important.
Shinkichi Mitsumune did all the rest of the music. He actually did all the music in Fully Cooley that wasn't the Pillows. He also did the music for Amagi Brilliant Park and Yu-Gi-Oh! That's a hell of a career. And apparently Ikuhara, this is like the most Ikuhara sounding thing ever, was apparently so convinced Utena would be the end of his career and the last anime he ever worked on, so he sought to make it the pinnacle of his work.
I don't blame him for thinking that, because in the grand scheme of what anime is, it doesn't fit.
No.
It doesn't fit at all.
It's completely out of its time, and also a huge product of its time at the same time.
And at the same time, before its time.
Yeah. Another incarnation of Utena came in the form of a number of one-shot theatrical productions. The Takarazuka-style musical shoujo Kakume Utena, also known as Comédie musicale Utena la Fillette Révolutionnaire.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
It's almost as good as Shoujo Kakume.
Played
Utena.
In 1997. I really fucking wish I could find any clips of this play, because I looked up what Takarazuka style theater is.
You didn't know?
I had no idea what Takarazuka.
I swear we've talked about this before.
The only way we ever would have talked about it is the Sailor Moon.
That's.
But even that's not that like Takarazuka style. Other than that, it's all women.
Yeah. In
that Takarazuka style theater is all female productions of Western Broadway musicals. And the thought of an all-female cast Takarazuka-style Utena musical makes me very excited, and I haven't even seen Utena yet. All the music in the show was released all just with the most insufferable French titles I've ever fucking seen in my life. But
it fits with the aesthetic.
Oh,
we all know Utena is all about the aesthetic.
Yeah, well, we all know the Japanese are all up their own ass about France for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But
a disease named after it.
Yeah. Here's another thing that came out in 1997, or started in 1997, Flame of Recca.
So Flame of Recca, I know you're looking at me like you're expecting me to have opinions on it. This is this is one of the major shonen things that I just never touched.
Me neither.
I don't know what it's about.
People in the U.S. have ever watched it.
I have. I remember specifically one MMO friend that I had in like 2009, like literally yelling at me at times to go watch it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's probably pretty good, but I just I got nothing.
This is a Studio Pierrot joint. It was on TV for 42 episodes. It's about present day ninja shenanigans. Atsushi Wakabayashi did the character designs on this, which I was surprised to see. Also, a shitload of people that worked on GTO also worked on this.
GTO was great.
Yeah.
So
Noriyuki Abe, who was the director of both GTO and also the Yu Yu Hakusho movie, Boruto, Bleach, and Black Butler, all B's.
He's still just picture the B, like the
BB.
the red block.
Well, it's a great anime that's airing right now. BBB and B, Bed Blockade Bath and Beyond.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Don't do that.
All right. Another thing that I don't think very many people have heard of, this movie called Princess Mononoke came out in 1997.
Never heard of it.
Is
that really 97?
It's 97, man. I didn't think it was,
right.
but yeah,
Damn.
it's 97.
I thought it was.
We might as well pair these two together because they're both crazy good movies by auteurs. Princess Mononoke and Perfect Blue both came out in 1997.
Can you
Hell
get
of a
more
year.
diametrically opposed yet more
Seriously.
important to anime films like together?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
I think Perfect Blue, especially, is probably worth talking about a bit more because it's Princess Mononoke. Come on,
everybody's seen Princess Mononoke.
Perfect Blue is I
will only say that I still to this day think that Princess Mononoke is the peak of Miyazaki's career. I know a lot of people will say that Spirited Away is, but I think that in terms of the
message he normally tries to get across, it's Mononoke.
Yeah, and I also just think that in terms of a purely epic Eastern tale, Mononoke is so far above anything else that he's made because it has a sense of scale that his movies don't ever really have. There's so much to that. It's a real chunky movie. Anyway, let's talk about Perfect Blue.
Perfect Blue. What I was about to say is that obviously Satoshi Kon is very highly regarded by Western filmmakers, and he gets referenced all the time. But I think that's like 90% of the references that we see in film are from Perfect Blue, especially.
Yeah,
that's where a lot of the Western directors that love his work and look up to him like really look to. It's that, and maybe a little bit Millennium Actress.
Yeah, and it's weird too because like Perfect Blue is probably the least mentioned of his films over here, I think, other than probably Millennium Actress.
It's really a film critic's Kon. I mean, all of his movies are film critic movies, but
it's also the least Satoshi Kon film. Yeah, really, if you think about it,
it's got his directorial style, but not the same message he normally goes for.
Yeah, it's much darker. Even though his movies all have a very underlying darkness to them.
It's a fantastic film, but also the one that I've watched the least because it makes me horribly uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is. I would not be surprised in the slightest if Darren Aronofsky just took like 3/4 of that movie and just lifted it into Black Swan, because
I still haven't seen Black Swan.
But you will be shocked at how many themes the two movies share.
I understand that he was like worried about like legal involvement because he
should have been. I mean, Black Swan is I liked Black Swan, but and I saw Black Swan before I watched Perfect Blue, and after watching Perfect Blue I was like, I think it probably because Satoshi Kon was in the grave by the time that like not to be macabre or anything, but like that's probably the only thing that stopped. Although I don't know, I'm sure Satoshi Kon probably would have taken it as a compliment.
Cool, I'm sure.
But like it is like straight up down to an evil double that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's totally.
What a fantastic film, though. I love one of my favorite things in film is like when something's really good, but I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah,
like it fucked me up so
Grave
good.
of the Fireflies, baby.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with this. It was great. I don't regret watching it. Never want to do it again.
Yep, I never want to feel those feelings again. Here's another crazy thing: the Legend of the Galactic Heroes anime, like the anime, ended after 9 years.
Yeah, a lot of people these days, especially over the last like 2 years, have been talking about Legend of Galactic Heroes because nowadays it's easy to just go and until recently it was download the Laserdisc rips, and now it's watch on High Dive. We also
have a question regarding this that we will get to later.
We will get there, but the release schedule for Legend of Galactic Heroes was really fucking weird.
Yeah,
they released it almost like an episodic like book serial in a magazine, but
it was
TV.
all direct to video.
Yeah.
It was released in direct home video installments during 4 separate periods between December 1988 and March 1997. The OVA comprises 110 episodes, which is so crazy to think of it as an OVA with that many episodes, but they together total more than 2,800 minutes of animation. It obviously was later shown on television and has multiple releases both on DVD and Blu-ray formats.
And it's so good.
Yep.
Seriously, check it out on High Dive. I literally pay for a High Dive subscription just to watch Legend of Galactic Heroes on it.
It's
worth it.
Crazy that it is even happening.
Love it.
Here's a thing that I totally didn't know about. There was a second Dr. Slump anime, and it happened in 1997.
I did not know this either.
I did not know it either. It was basically Toei trying to capitalize on Dragon Ball fever, because, as we will get to in a second, Dragon Ball GT ended in 97, and obviously there has not been a Dragon Ball... there wasn't a Dragon Ball TV series after that until like 2 years ago. Yeah. No. I mean like a new
new one. Yeah.
Like Kai was
a lot of people watch Kai though.
No, totally. And like for good reason.
Kai was great.
But it ran from 97 to 99. It had new designs, and several Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z staff members were on board. Yeah, it was kind of just Toei trying to cash in some more
filler.
Toriyama.
This is a real life filler.
Yep. Retells the original Dr. Slump manga and is also a softer reboot of the original anime from the 1980s, which ran for like 6 years. And then finally, the most blessed time in anime ever, Dragon Ball GT stopped being a thing in 1997. And this is a quote from the Wikipedia article. Chief character designer, and I thought this was funny given how just fucking ridiculously stupid DB Super has become. Chief character designer Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru said he agonized over designing Super Saiyan 4 Goku, which was the idea of the show's producers, questioning whether it was necessary to go further with the transformations. Isn't that so cute in 2017 to think about? Isn't that adorable?
Fair, wasn't 4 when they started to go like monkey form though?
It was like the weird like red fur and the tail. Yeah, he like regrew the tail. Yeah,
he might have been onto something with that.
No, he's well, he was onto something by having any doubts about Dragon Ball GT, because Dragon Ball GT is bad. Yeah. So that is the anime we chose to talk about in from 1997. Obviously, one that you'll know we missed off if you listened to the opening theme, which you sure as hell should have, is Gao Gaigar.
Yes, that was an interesting thing for like giant robots in general, because there's a lot of people don't realize this, but Mecha has a lot of subcategories. There's like Mecha,
you think?
Right. There's Mecha, and then there's like Giant Robo, and then there's Super Robo, and Gao Gaigar is obviously Super Robo with categories like the Choginga Tenka Toppa Gurren Lagann.
Yeah,
that's a Super Robo, where like Gao Gaigar was kind of lampooning that whole thing. It's just like, hold up, y'all are getting kind of ridiculous. Let me put it in perspective. And it's also really good at the same time. It's just ridiculous.
And if you have seen our video on Yutaka Nakamura, that was the first show I ever worked on.
Yeah.
And what a show it was. All right, Patrick, shall we finish this thing out with probably another hour of stuff?
It's we got a lot of really good questions, some fun questions, and some that I think will result in some really good conversation.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to go down the line here. First question comes from Cherry Wallflower at CH Waffle on Twitter. Thank you, Cherry, for this first question, opening it up with the most recent controversy I think that she could have possibly opened up. Is stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender and Neo Yokio anime, or just cartoons with big eyes?
Now, before we mention this, I want to say she had a reply to that tweet where somebody said, "How dare you lump Neo Yokio and Avatar together?" And I want to say to that person, no, I want to say to that person, yeah, you're right. Avatar is nowhere near as good as Neo Yokio. It's not.
I'll say that you do not deserve this big Toblerone.
Anyway, I had to get that out there.
I've been thinking about this for a lot, and I think we have actually discussed this pretty in depth. We had a video called "What is Anime," which was a couch conversation that we did. But I think my argument has kind of evolved a little bit since then, and I've been thinking about this a lot over the past few days. And obviously, we could sit here and argue about what is anime and what isn't anime, and obviously a lot of people that I think probably know better know that obviously anime is just the Japanese word for animation, and at the end of the day, from the Japanese perspective, everything that is animated is anime.
Pixar is also anime.
Yeah, Pixar is anime from their perspective, but obviously we're not talking from a Japanese person's perspective. We're two white dudes from Florida. So here's my 2 cents. It might be a hot take, but over the past probably 10 years, I think the anime community, and probably more so the video gaming community in the United States, has developed a really intense obsession with identity. People see themselves as gamers, and that defines their entire identity, or people see themselves as, anime fans, weeaboos, whatever you want to call yourself. And that identity is very pervasive, and I think it can contribute to some really great things, but I also think that it can contribute to some really toxic things. And I think this obsession with what is anime and what is not anime comes down at the end of the day to a crisis of identity, because I think a lot of people who for the majority of their life have kind of defined themselves by their interest in anime and their participation in this culture, see a threat when they start to think of, stuff like, okay, well, is Avatar anime, or is Neo Yokio an anime, or is, Teen Titans an anime? Is stuff that is clearly influenced by anime but not made in Japan anime. And I think that's a worthy question of discussing, but honestly, I think we've been discussing it for as long as anime has been a thing.
And we will continue to discuss it.
My take is that as a community, I think we need to evolve past that. Because here's the thing, guys. The anime industry has long evolved past that identity quest themselves.
Yeah, now the question is CG anime... Sorry.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. If you are going to simply... define anime as animation that is produced in Japan, then you are going to find yourselves in a bit of a sticky wicket. Because if you look at the credits of literally any anime that is made now, or probably for the past 15 to 20 years, you're going to see just as many Korean, Chinese, and foreign names in the credits as actual Japanese people. Outsourcing of animation is a massive practice. And as a result, there are a ton of talented animators that are just as talented as any Japanese animator in Korea. There are a ton of talented animators in China. And though their labor is in high demand in Japan and vice versa, it is a very symbiotic relationship that the East Asia has in reference to animation. And so... they have already moved past this whole idea of like, I don't think they've never really asked the question, what is anime? Because that's never really been a thing that they needed to ask.
That's animated.
But I think we need to follow suit with them, because you already are seeing anime becoming more of a global medium than it ever has been. You have talented people like, Bahi JD, who's probably one of the most in-demand animators right now, who's from Spain. You have guys like Thomas Romain, who have been involved in the anime industry for like 10 years. You have guys like Rasmus Faber and Kevin Penkin, who are, obviously foreigners, Westerners, who are producing music for anime, and in Kevin Penkin's case, probably one of the best soundtracks of the year.
You have producers and assistants as well that are just the same. They're from all over the place these days.
And now you also have more involvement from Western companies than we've ever seen in anime.
Crunchyroll has been on the committee for at least like 10 shows this year.
As has Funimation, as has Cartoon Network through Adult Swim. So I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what is anime and what is not, because it's all an arbitrary definition that we're putting on something. Anime... It doesn't mean anything, guys. It is a medium. It is not a genre. And
it's a fallacy in your head.
Yeah, it is. Every time you ask what an anime is, you're cheapening how global and how cooperative anime as a medium and as a business can be, and how much it already is.
Well, I think to add on to that, a lot of people have been pushing lately, and I think it's correct to like try to introduce people that say, oh, I don't like anime, introduce it as a medium instead of a genre. I think if you put that limit on it, it has to be like created in Japan with Japanese creators, I think you're kind of really constricting it to a genre, which it very, very clearly is not.
Yeah. And it's also a logical, like an illogical argument. I see people arguing like, they use the whole like, well, Japan thinks it's okay when in reference to like whitewashing and stuff, but it's also like not an argument that they're willing to extend to like, well, Japanese people don't really give a fuck what anime is. So why should we, why should we be so concerned with identity when we should be more concerned with trying to spread this to as many people as possible? Because there are clearly so many people in our country that think that they don't enjoy this medium, that there's something for everybody.
Yeah, there really is.
And the more welcoming we are as a community and the less concerned we are with defining ourselves by our passion, the more I think anime will be improved and the more exciting it will be. Because like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm super duper excited to see more and more foreigners working on anime, because it just means
only resulted in good so far.
Yeah, it only means a more diversified, more interesting product, and it's paying big dividends in 2017. Let me tell you. I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, I know that's like probably a non-answer to people that were like wanting me to like put down a line in the sand, but I'm not gonna, because I want to be as welcoming in this community as possible, and I'm not willing to like anime is a huge part of my identity as a person, and I get that, but at the end of the day, like I'm not gonna like, you know, it's not gonna say like Mark, he liked anime on his gravestone, you know. Like as much as I would like,
he liked animation created by Japanese persons.
Ganbari mast real hard.
That's going to be on mine. Yeah. For me, my answer is mostly the same. You said it a lot more in depth than I ever could have. But like, if you want to be that guy and you want to have that identity, then no, Teen Titans Avatar isn't an anime. But to you, I say, who the fuck cares? Did you enjoy it? Like, who gives a shit what you call it? It's interesting animation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think people like us, especially, that, you know, we're very particularly interested in the art of animation. Yeah, I think it pays to be a lot more open-minded in that respect too, because like
some of the more interesting things that showed up on Crunchyroll over the last year, animation speaking, were Chinese. Like To Be Hero was one of, if not the most visually interesting shows over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to speak to like, you know, that Castlevania series came out this year, and that was entirely, well, almost entirely animated by a Western studio, Yota, I think, all Western animators, and they did a fucking amazing job on the battle scenes in that show. Yeah, and also like if we want to talk about like, you know, Legend of Korra had some fantastic animation in it, and that was all Korean. Yeah, but still not Japanese. Yeah. So yeah, anime is, look, like I think it was Canepa said like anime is the global medium, and he's right. Like it's becoming more and more that way every single day, and the more that you insist on defining it as like solely Japanese is simply holding it back.
Let's move on.
All right. Yeah, we want to try to run through these, even though they're probably some of the most in-depth ones that we have. So our boy Senpai Notes at Senpai Notes on Twitter. Thank you.
Yeah, the famous / infamous top 10, now top 10.
Now top 10, used to be top 5. Thanks, Twitter. So he's got 3 questions here for us. The first one is, could you weigh in on the whole trap Otokonoko debate? So for those that aren't familiar, there is a debate raging on Twitter now, and Tumblr, but I don't go on Tumblr, so I wouldn't know. But whether or not to say the word trap. Now, Patrick, can you explain to us what a trap is? I was
going to let you go first.
I mean,
you just want the explanation. Trap, quite simply, is a crossdresser. They look like a girl. They're wearing girls' clothes, but they're a boy.
Trap and its original Japanese version, Otokonoko, both hold a somewhat negative cultural connotation. Where I was going to go with it is I'm not a fan of the term trap. Like, I don't absolutely hate it. I don't have super strong feelings, but it does have a negative connotation. And if you're trans or, you know, especially gender fluid, I can definitely see why it would hurt you and why you would not want people to do it. So I generally don't say it. My argument for trap is, as a translation, if you're a translator working, it is a fantastic term because of that negative connotation. Senpai Note specifically asked, could you weigh in on the trap Otokonoko debate? Otokonoko is the Japanese word for boy, but in this case, that last character, ko, is spelled with the character for girl. So you're making it a different reading. So, and that has that negative connotation in Japanese because it's a surprise. It's not what you were expecting. And there's other words for cross-dressing in Japanese that don't have that negative connotation. So I think if you're a translator, shying away from using it is probably the wrong way to go, just because you're keeping that cultural negative connotation. If you're a person that wants to talk about a cross-dresser, especially when you're talking about anime, like talk about like Astolfo from Fate, that's the most popular one this season. Yeah. I personally don't use the term. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's less about it's not a translation issue, obviously.
Yeah, but a lot of people are calling for nobody to use it ever. I don't want to say I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm just advocating for the use of it when it's appropriate. I don't think when translating you should censor.
Yeah. No, I agree. And yeah, I think the focus needs to be less. The focus always needs to be less on translators because people give them enough shit as it is. But the focus needs to be less on translators and more on the culture. And unfortunately, it's entirely a Japanese thing that we're being presented with. And obviously, we have very little effect on Japanese culture and the way they view trans people. But trans people just kind of aren't a thing in Japan.
We did bring up in the line chat when briefly discussing this that you said that you feel, and I definitely agree with you, that as far as being trans and cross-dressing is in anime in that medium is there's like no good representations whatsoever.
No, there isn't. Even Astolfo, who I know a lot of people love and think is a good boy, and like I get that.
It's still super fetishized.
Yeah, it's super fetishized, and also any discussion of his gender is, first of all, the fact that I'm using his and not her is enough of an indication as to like how they play him as a character, but also, use of pronouns is so far beyond what their consideration. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm just saying like, oh, Japanese people are dumb and don't understand, trans. It's not true. And there are plenty of trans people in Japan and trans activists. And when I say that there are trans people, trans personhood isn't a thing in Japan, I'm just meaning like their greater society culture, has almost zero conception of like what it is to be trans. I mean, they're just general LGBT rights over there are mostly non-existent. Yeah. I mean, gay marriage is not even a thought in most people's minds. The marginalization of the gay community is at a much worse state than it is in our country, and it is not a visible thing. And that's horrific and unfortunate, and it makes me very sad.
That bleeds into their anime.
And that bleeds heavily into their anime because a lot of times anime is among some of the most socially conservative and offensive stuff that comes out of Japan in a lot of ways. And also, it goes completely the other way around. But in terms of portraying characters who might be considered trans, you're not going to find a good one. I'm sorry.
The reason I actually brought this up is because there is one from a series that I love, and this is Genshiken. If you're interested in seeing characters represented this way in like a fair way, Genshiken Nidaime is first of all, Genshiken is about a college otaku club pretty much. And in the second season, all the original characters are out. They've graduated, and in come a bunch of Fujoshi, which is a completely 180 from the original. But one of the Fujoshi, you soon find out, is a guy that's dressing as a woman because he's a Fudanshi, and he doesn't feel welcome. So he originally goes there, and it's kind of a punchline for a bit, but it quickly grows a lot. And as you follow this character through, and his relationship with another male character, Madarame, they really explore a relationship there, like a sexual relationship, and what that means for the people that are involved with it, because there's one person that's occasionally presenting himself as a woman, occasionally presenting himself as a man, and both characters don't know what that means about how they feel, and it's handled really, really well. The manga ended, I don't know, probably a year ago, but check that out. It's for me, it's the only manga that I've read, that handled it as anything but a joke.
Yeah. The other thing I want you guys to understand is, at the end of the day, we're two cis white guys, like, and we both have grown up in fairly privileged positions. And in terms of real diversity throughout our lives, I don't think we've experienced much. And I think that's fair to say. So take everything we're saying with a grain of salt. If you want a better perspective on this stuff from people that have actually lived it, there's plenty of resources out there that are very easy to find. that I would suggest you listen to instead of us blathering about trans people, because you know, our opinions are probably worth very little in the overall scope of that. But yeah, I don't like, at the end of the day, I don't like the word trap. I'm probably never going to use it again. And it's just, you know, it's one of these words that morally I'm pretty conflicted on, because yeah, it is a good translation, but at the same time, I'm never going to be caught dead saying it. But also, I have a very negative connotation of it in my mind, because the people that like ardently defend it on Twitter are also just pieces of shit. And I'm not afraid to say that. They're people that have Trump will make anime real in their bios and are beyond deserve as much reproach as possible, but they're also beyond saving. All right, let's move on to the next question. I'm going to try to paraphrase here, because this was like a 10 tweet long thing, but basically, Senpai Notes would like to know, do cute anime girls hurt IRL 3D women? And he's framing this in him and his sister watching Madoka Magica, and Madoka's like characterization as sort of moeiness, like pigeon-toed, timid, that sort of thing. And his sister is arguing that the way that women are portrayed in a lot of anime sets unrealistic expectations for female bodies and female methods of behavior and their interactions with men. And Senpai Notes is arguing the other side of it, which is saying that her sort of more moe, at least in Madoka's case, her more moe aspects are characterization, kind of trying to set up who she is.
She's a timid girl.
And I don't think we need to necessarily cling to this one particular example, especially because I've never really, with any sort of length, seen Madoka, so that's a bad example for me to use. But here's a moe girls that are moe for the sake of being easily controlled by the protagonist do make me throw up in my mouth a little. I'm the kind of guy who prefers being stepped upon, and I don't think it's for men to feel entitled to control women. And I have to agree with him on that. I feel very much the same way.
This is, you were talking about again, at the end of the last one.
I would like you guys to remember to take everything we are going to say with a grain of salt, because we're two cishet white men, and our opinions are worth very little in this department.
I was about to open my opinion on this with, this is one that I feel even less qualified to talk about than the previous one, which is why I would like to extend an invite to any woman that's listening that would want to come in and talk about this. I would love to revisit it with them. I think that could be very interesting and a lot more valuable for everybody. That having been said, some of the backstory here is his sister doesn't watch anime. I can definitely see where she's coming from, and in a lot of cases that is definitely true, where it doesn't do anything to serve women. It's not good. It's a male fantasy.
Exactly.
A lot of anime girls. On the other hand, Madoka is a horrible example, because everything made in Madoka is on purpose. There's no mistakes there. I mean, Homura is anything but what Madoka is, while she can still be defined as moe easily.
Yeah. Here's my take. I definitely see what she was saying, and I honestly I agree entirely with everything that she said about unrealistic body expectations. I mean, anime is amongst some of the worst.
Let's go watch One Piece.
Yeah. I think anime, at the end of the day, if you're going to watch it and enjoy it, you kind of have to...
You gotta suspend that shit, man.
You have to leave a lot of your morality at the door. You have to take the good with the bad. But at the same time, you have to, especially if you're like us, when you're a cis-het white male, where anime could very well be teaching you things that you should not learn ever as a man. You have to constantly remember... These are not real women. They do not reflect how women act in the real world, and learn how to, by consuming non-anime media that does portray women in a positive light and portrays them how they actually are in the real world, or at least tries to give you show you an experience of what women deal with on a day-to-day basis. And use that to be able to decipher, okay, this anime is good to women and this anime is bad to women. And that if an anime is bad to women, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to dislike it, because I know plenty of women whom I love and are hardcore feminists that also love to watch shit like Kill la Kill, which is very much not good to women.
The banner I've been waving for the last few months is it's okay to like things that are problematic.
Yes, it is.
It just recognize somewhere that they're kind of problematic.
It's the same. Look, it's the same thing as if you are a radical feminist and love to watch Game of Thrones, that's totally fucking okay. And I have absolutely no expertise or place to be able to say that to you. If you're a radical feminist and you're listening, I consider myself a feminist. I'm sure, Patrick, you consider yourself a feminist. Mm-hmm. It's okay to like stuff that's problematic as long as you know that it's problematic and know that what is problematic about it, and set your own boundaries for what is okay and what is not okay. And it's easy for me as a cis-het white man to say that because very little offends me. And that sort of very little offends me so much that I have to turn it off. And there are certain things that do get to me, and I know that are so problematic that I can't possibly get past their content. But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like as long as if you're willing to leave your morality at the door while at the same time being able to realize what is problematic about a thing and not let yourself be taken by it, not let yourself think that it just because you're seeing it on screen means it's okay for it to be happening in the real world, and internalize that the problematic nature of whatever you're watching, then you'll walk out of that experience as good of a person as you went in. And like, you know, if somebody comes to you and tells you a thing that is problematic about something that you like, that you don't necessarily agree with or never thought of, don't make your first reaction a violent hatred of that opinion. Because, you know, I'll give you a very personal example. One of my favorite shows from the past few years is My Hero Academia, and one that I thought handled all of its characters with about as much care as a big three shonen anime could possibly do. And it was only until, you know, some of my closest female friends came to me and were just like, yo, I like that show, but it's got some problems with its female characters, that I started to really consider it, because of course I'm not a woman. I don't have the experience of a woman to be able to measure against that show. And I had my suspicions, but since I liked the show so much, I never really welcomed them in my mind, because, you know, I'm a man and I was raised as a man, and that's, you know, something that we as men are unfortunately told to internalize, is just like, you know, everything's made for us and everything's all right. And in the case that's especially true with My Hero Academia, but
it's good living.
You know, my reaction was like, oh fuck, like, you know, shit, I need to feel bad about this now. And here's the thing, I didn't, because those same people then joined me in praising the show for what was good about it. And there's a ton good about that show, obviously.
That is okay.
And also, there are no shortage of progressive, left-leaning women in the world that absolutely love that show more than life itself. But also, they recognize its faults. And I feel like as long as you recognize something's faults and don't internalize them and don't let them teach you that it's okay, then at the end of the day, you'll be all right. So... yes. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully, I don't think we can give a definitive answer.
I would like to reiterate, I would love to have any woman listening on the show to talk about that.
Yeah, guys, if you want to come on the show and have an in-depth discussion with us about this, and I know that is a terribly intimidating thing, especially if you don't know us personally, you know, feel free to reach out. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, ohnoanime@gmail.com. We would love to have you guys on, because honestly, as two cis-het white men, the best thing we can do is use our platform to amplify the voices of the marginalized, and that is what we want to do as much as we possibly can, and it's probably something we could do more of, to be honest with you.
This is a good chance.
Yeah. So yeah, hit us up if you want to come on the show, because God knows we're always looking for more guests, that's for sure.
So Senpai Notes, last question.
Yes.
Here we go. Very quickly, can ideological undercurrents that you disagree with in an anime ruin it for you, or do you prefer shows that seem to treat two opposing ideas neutrally, like the first season of Code Geass? For me, it depends. Like, there's some things like, if this is an awful example, but the first one that comes to mind is if it's pedophilia, like fucking Kodomo no Jikan, where like within 5 minutes,
or Boku no Pico,
there's like a 5-year-old girl like sucking on the teacher's finger sexually. No, I'm not watching that shit.
Bad.
Fuck off. As far as anything outside of something just egregiously bad like that, I can't think I've watched anything that
Nazi apologism.
Okay,
that's probably another one.
I didn't even give DSC Ray a chance.
Yeah.
So
for good reason.
But as far as things like Code Geass, I as a person, I really love entertaining two ideas. To me, like, nothing is ever black and white. There's always reasons, and I strive as a person to understand both sides as best I can. Code Geass, especially, I like that because the looming question is, do the ends justify the means? And I think that is a really good question and relevant everywhere in life. Code Geass did that wonderfully.
It's a fantastic thing to base like an entire show around. I feel similarly. I think the reason why Senpai Notes is asking us this question, I saw him get into a discussion with someone else that I follow on Twitter about Attack on Titan. And how I believe Senpai Notes really does not like that show because of a lot of things. It promotes social Darwinism and it's highly nationalistic. And that was an eye-opening experience for me. I had these accusations hurled at that show before, and I kind of just let them roll off my back.
It's a lot worse in the manga. It's a lot more readily apparent.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if it's just a manga thing or if the anime has sanitized a lot of it, but I almost feel like that's kind of giving that show too much credit. Only because that show is fucking stupid as shit, and the only reason I watch it is because it is a fantastically produced and animated show. It looks great. The voice acting is great, and it's a cool show where people fly around on cool steam backpacks and cut the necks off of Titans, and that is literally my extent of enjoying that show.
You say that, but I have to disagree only because I've listened to the words that Isayama Hajime says, and he seems like the type of person who would be a Nazi apologist.
Oh, he totally is. He's a Japanese nationalist, and he promotes social Darwinism, and I totally understand why anybody would totally not want to give that man anything. But here's the thing. He is very clearly not involved with that anime production in almost any way because he can't because it looks good and it is a direct adaptation and he fucking hates his own work, and that's why the Attack on Titan movie was so terrible because he begged them to change all of it and it sucked. It takes a lot for me to abandon a show that I otherwise like because
it's ideology. It has to be something so horrible.
Yeah, I
have a thick skin for anime.
I very rarely, because usually anime that have the most objectionable ideologies in terms of what they're actually saying with the production. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, the anime that are espousing some of the worst ideologies are also some of the worst made.
Funny how that works.
So some of the least interesting to watch. So I would much quicker abandon something like Heavy Object because of its horrible production than its whatever ideologies.
I would have kept watching that if it was a good show.
Yeah.
This would lead into an interesting other question that I would like to go into sometime is why is it, and I think I speak for both of us, correct me if I'm wrong, we seem to have thicker skin for when anime does stupid shit. A lot of shows, and I had this exact conversation with SB, why do we put up with so much shit with anime and actively enjoy it?
I think honestly at the end of the day, and that is something that actually very recently I thought about, I think both of us at the end of the day, which is why I think we try to at least provide a refreshing take a lot of the time on some of anime's more ridiculous stuff, is because we love anime for being anime. And we love
give it a free pass on a lot of shit.
We love the genre tropes because at the end of the day, the worst thing is a stupid thing happening in an anime can make you do is not laugh. And that's why I stuck with shows like Asterisk War, because I thought it was genuinely fun. I thought the production was slick. Yeah. It was one of the most laughably stupid things I've ever seen. But you know what? It was entirely harmless. And at the end, honestly, I think it's also kind of why we both like Sword Art Online as much as we do.
Oh, no.
Attack on Titan is another great example. Yeah. Those shows are all just big, dumb, lumbering messes. But they're all made really well. They all have seiyuu that we like in them. They all have characters that, at the end of the day, we would like to keep seeing. and they're fucking anime. They're anime ass anime, of it, and we love anime ass anime.
You could put I was about to say If the Mix Store Online, a TV show, and then I remember, fuck, they are. Oh God.
Yeah, fuck me.
Like,
Jesus.
Like if it was American from the beginning and I tried to watch it, I would have been like, this is horrible, and dropped it and never thought twice about it. But like, I give anime a free pass. It's a thing.
At the end of the day, to try to answer this question succinctly, at the end of the day, I think it goes back to leaving your morality at the door. I very much, a lot of times I just turn my brain off and I let myself sink into whatever I'm watching, and it takes a lot. Like a show that I really liked from last year was Gate, and Gate is one of the more nationalistic shows I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, we both love Kantai Collection, and that erases a ton of World War II history that probably shouldn't be erased. Also, we both loved High School Fleet, and that was another probably intensely problematic show that glorified the Imperial Japanese Navy. So, like, look, it's again, you just got to make your own determinations on that type of shit. If you really can't watch Attack on Titan because it is morally objectionable, then that's cool. Your biz. Again, I think that's probably giving that show too much credit because it's real stupid.
All right, we should move on.
All right.
This is probably the most important and the most divisive question of the night. Momo at Momo _
Oh, no. We have one.
I'm sorry. I skipped one. My apologies.
Danny from the Anime is Lit podcast at Infinite Bagel on Twitter. Thank you, Danny. He asks, what are some good blogs, news sites, and sources that you get info in English on the things like the state of the Japanese anime industry and fandom? Besides places like Anime News Network, are there some that speak from less of a Western perspective?
Easy. Sakugaboru's blog.
Yeah. Sakugaboru, just search Sakugaboru, Booru. That's just the Hepburnization of the word bored in Japanese, is easily the best resource for the state of the animation side of the Japanese industry.
They strive to go more in depth than you thought anybody ever could without being a part of the industry, and they do an awesome, thoughtful job of it. I know so much because of these people.
They are truly...
They're the real incredible.
Yeah, they are an incredible resource, and that's like easily one of the best resources.
There are other sites though. Wave Motion Canon does some awesome interviews. Any interviews on like small like WordPress blogs, any interviews, find translated interviews.
Wave Motion Canon probably has the best like assembly line for that type of stuff. Also, the Canepa Effect on YouTube.
He does a great job.
He works with a lot of really good translators, and also like has actual contacts in the animation
he has
industry.
A lot of really good contacts. Like he's like best buds with most of the PA Works crew, which I'm so jealous.
Truly living the dream that we all. Work. Yeah, he works very hard. You did mention Anime News Network. I will say that the anime industry in the West is very weird because obviously like stuff like gaming has like a whole huge, big, ethically sound journalistic empire built up around it. Anime News Network is really the only Western source for actual journalistic anime news
that is true.
That is solely dedicated to that type of stuff. Obviously Crunchyroll has a very good news team, but like
they have some good editorials,
and then also they do have a lot of people write for them, but ANN is still the best place on the entire English internet to get anime news.
Hilariously enough, there's a paper magazine, I forget the actual name, it's like Otaku USA.
Yeah, it's Otaku USA.
They do have a website as well, but their content is really good. A lot of it is super editorialized, but it's still like really good content, and I've learned a lot of stuff from them that I would not have otherwise. Yeah,
so those are some websites to check out. The one thing I really wish there was a big catch-all site like Sakugaboru, but for like the music side of things. But that'll be something for us to start eventually.
Yeah, right.
Once we have the Ono Anime Empire up and running.
But yeah, that was a good question, and one that
fantastic question.
Wasn't a lot of opinion. Thank you.
Yeah. I was going to say something else. There is one site that you should never go to, and that is Go Boy Ano. They are the fucking worst, and I hate them.
They are the BuzzFeed of anime.
They're like the Gawker of anime.
Ooh, if only somebody could sue them for a sex tape.
If only Hulkamania could run wild on Go Boy Ano like it did on Gawker.
So now to what I already jumped the gun and announced is the most important divisive question by Momo at Momo _ Delight on Twitter. Who has the best butt in Yuri on Ice?
the ultimate question. Well, having just received my Viktor Nikiforov figure, that I can balance a full $1 of loose change on that ass.
That wonderful ass.
I have to say, Victor.
There was that I thought it was hysterical. I think a lot of people don't share my opinion. The weird thing that Crunchyroll did with ProZD, the like anime inspector thing. I thought it was great. It was. Oh, shit. I don't remember the name. It's on Crunchyroll's Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was Giordano for them, and I think that's what she was referencing.
Yeah.
But she also had a more regular question, which was, okay, but seriously, did you have high hopes for any shows this year that didn't live up to your expectations? What were they? Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Why don't you go first?
A few. I literally have the list, and I'm trying to go alphabetically. Bang Dream, sort of, only because they could have done a lot more. It's very rare these days to have an idol group that plays their instruments, and they should have harped on that more. Well, a lot of the show was about that. It didn't show in the music at all. They could have gone a lot better with that. Blue Exorcist, the second season, like nobody cared.
Yeah.
I started watching, and because they had to retcon like the entire second half of the first season, that really just messed everything up and turned into a huge disappointment. Chaos Child was also god awful.
Not surprising.
That could have been good. It could have been good. Not Science Gate, but the previous one.
I think we could probably both safely say now Black Clover is definitely high up on that list.
It was supposed to be a huge shonen thing, and maybe it's good. Kat has been saying lately it's been getting better.
I can't say I had high hopes for it after reading up on it initially, but
well, I mean the manga's good. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
This is gonna seem out of character for me, but Cure Precure, I don't feel it, which is a shame.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying
which is a shame because it's apparently gay as hell, and I'm all about gay precures. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know what it was about it.
Adam the Beginning was one that really bummed me out. The show's production kind of fell off into some very choppy looking stuff halfway through, and they just kind of devolved into some very episodic content, which you wouldn't think would happen given it was only a 13 episode show. But
here we go. I don't know. I think this was it Long Riders this year?
Long Riders was last year, I want to say, but was it Minami Kamakura High School Girls Cycling Club?
That was definitely this year.
Yeah, that was a pretty big disappointment.
Yeah, it had beautiful backgrounds and was partially paid for by the Tourism Bureau, which makes sense. But for me, like, I read the manga because of the backgrounds, because Kamakura is like my favorite place in the world. I want to freaking retire there.
Yeah.
I know there were
Love and Lies was another one.
Love and Lies,
huge
that
disappointment.
Got disappointing. The Danmachi spinoff.
Sword Art Tourette? Yeah, I'd probably put that in there.
By that. Yeah. There were a lot.
Honestly, I'd probably put Welcome to the Ballroom in that category too.
I think I would. I think actually that's a good point. Welcome to the Ballroom has one major issue with it, and that's that it came out after Yuri on Ice. Yeah. Yuri on Ice,
and also probably after Haikyuu too.
Yeah. Well, Yuri on Ice showed us what you can do with expressive dance. I mean, figure skating isn't exactly one analog to dance, but it showed us what you can do with expression and art form like that in animation.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Ballroom has had none of that. It went back to the standard sports anime formula of sitting there showing like a still, maybe a little bit of animation, and having the crowd talk about it, which is important to like let you know the details of a sport that most people don't know about. But Yuri on Ice had several times where it let the animation do the speaking. That has not happened once.
It also had a story that was like outside of just, or was bigger than just the sport. And I think that Welcome to the Ballroom has struggled in that aspect. I really like their framing of the main character Tatara and his struggle, but that has kind of fallen flat on his face.
Yeah, the manga's still great, and I am still watching the anime. I'm a few episodes behind, but I fully intend to keep up with it.
Also, it's a very good example of an anime that has some really problematic characterizations of its female characters.
Yeah, there's a couple not
sort of like only being justified by the existence of their male counterparts. I found that to be pretty disappointing. Emperor Big good. Mom on Twitter at Pain Shiba, which this is a little peek behind the curtain. This is Kat, who does all of our art. Hello, Kat. I'm struggling to come up with anything. So, what say you? Are really killing it this year? Like in terms of standout performances, numbers of roles, or just sheer prominence and popularity? Who do you think has had a truly exceptional year?
Hayami Saori.
Let me just get this out of the way. Saori Hayami.
Yeah.
I think this year, she's probably a pretty high shoe-in to be third year in a row Ono Anime Female Seiyuu of the Year.
Argue that
she is.
That's the obvious answer, though.
I've never really heard of a seiyuu rising to such meteoric stardom and also prestige.
Especially what's interesting about her is all the other ones that have gotten super popular like her and stayed around have all been idols too.
Yeah.
She sings a couple songs, but you don't see her out there performing in frilly dresses.
She's certainly never going to be an idol, mostly because I think that her persona and she's honestly like, and I don't want to say this in like as a disparaging thing to idols, but I almost want to say that she's above that. Like
I'll say she's much more reserved.
Yeah, she has carved her own path outside of the traditional anime skip. Because also, like, listen to her fucking voice. Her voice doesn't sound like anyone else that's in the game right now, and that's incredible.
Somebody else like that has had a massive resurgence, and I'm so happy for it. Mamiko Noto. Mamiko Noto is either the first or second voice actress that I really recognize and said, I love this voice. What else has she been in? The other one being Aya Hirano, and she has come back in such a big way this year, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, she. I'm kind of starting to get to the point where I really want to put her in the, as I like to call, the holy trinity of
M's.
Maya Sakamoto, Miyuki Shiro, Mamiko Noto, and then above all of them is Megumi Hayashibara. But still,
I want to posit that had you started watching anime when I did, when she was in her heyday,
she
would have already been there.
I know. I'm just talking about in terms of people who have somehow managed to make their careers last intensely long. Because Mamiko Noto, like, she hasn't been around.
Early 2000s. No, she was early 2000s.
Yeah, but she's making her way back in a big way. I mean, she's in Xenoblade 2, which is coming out in like mere days.
She's in a lot of things. She's done such a great job in recovery of an MMO junkie.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
I'm trying to think of any male seiyuu this year that I love, that particularly have stood out, that
All Might / Thor.
Yeah, Kenta Miyake has had a really huge year. Daiki Yamashita has had a really good year, even outside of My Hero Academia. Obviously, his character, the character that I first fell in love with him with, Onida, made a return appearance in Yowamushi Pedal New Generations this year, which was, again, fantastic. He's in Shokugeki no Soma. He was one of the only good parts about Anonymous Noise, and playing a completely different character than he usually plays. That was interesting to see. But his voice brightens my day every time I hear it. He's a wonderful boy, and I'm glad that he's getting more opportunities and is voicing literally the biggest shonen protagonist since fucking Naruto. So good on him. Daiki Yamashita, definitely my number one. Probably will be my number one male seiyuu this year. Just narrowly beating out Shinichiro Miki, who's it maybe every other year.
Pretty much.
All right. You want to read the next one from The Subtle Doctor?
Yeah, The Subtle Doctor, shown in Subsay from Wave Motion Canon. Best Girl and Best Boy of 2017. Go. God, that's hard.
This will be something that, this will probably be more of a workshop for the end of your wrap-up episode.
For like right now, and this is not encompassing the whole year, there's one character that I have just completely loved this season. It's from a show that Mark's not even watching. In Anime Guitaris, there's the anime noob character. You know, she accidentally starts this anime club, and the show is referential to the nth degree, and there's just something about how sparkly and happy she is to get into anime that I just absolutely love.
Yeah. For me, Best Girl, Yumeko Jabami is going to be pretty fucking hard for me to beat. Yeah, what a life-changing character that was. And then, obviously, the existence of Saikano this year basically just makes the rest of that list for me.
Best boy is Deku.
Yeah, I'm going to probably go with Deku as well. I mean, He's
everybody's son.
Is there a better boy? I don't think so. But find out our final answers on the end of your wrap-up episode. Our friend Brandon Lanes, at Brandon Lanes on Twitter. This is a good question. Previously niche genres and tropes like ecchi, lolicons, etc. are now in many mainstream anime shows. What is something niche now that you think will be more popular in future anime? I've actually given this some considerable thought because that was one of the earlier questions that were asked. I have one thing, and that is the involvement in Anisong producers and DJs in more productions. We've seen it slowly starting to creep in. Mob Psycho had some stuff in there. Obviously, is it ICOTS? Yeah, ICOTS has had a lot of those producers. We've just seen dance music start to creep more and more into, and I should just say electronic music with like, you know, the fact that like Techno Boys, Polcraft, Green Fund are getting so much work nowadays is very indicative of like where music is going. But I would just love to see more, like involvement from dance music producers and DJs like, you know, Taku Takahashi and Teddy Lloyd. Like the whole thing with, Me was like a huge watershed moment, I think, for a lot of that stuff in anime, and it kind of paved the way for Daoko's involvement in a lot of anime, I think. Like she's doing the fucking Kekai Sensen ending this season that is fantastic with Yasuyuki Okamura, the space dandy singer, which is still blows my fucking mind.
She's about to do a thing with Beck. Like,
yeah,
holy shit,
like what the fuck? So just more involvement from like alternative artists, especially in the electronic scene. Also, I'd love to see more hip hop in anime. Junie Tyson had a weird thing where it promoted the show with like a cipher of each rapper representing a different piece of the zodiac. Also, I want to say it's Lantis is putting together a all male anime like audio CD anime in character hip hop, like several different hip hop groups.
I have not heard about this.
Dude, it's so crazy. It's and like some of them can fucking spit. I'm not even sure. It's all lesser known seiyuu, but they're all playing characters like if Side M did a fucking hip hop anime, but they're all based in units, and all the units are all different parts of Tokyo. So there's like a Kanda one and an Ikebukuro one, which is the best one. And there's cool. I'm
gonna need a link to this as soon as we know.
I'm gonna have to find it because I've seen one article on Anime News Network and that was it. But if that shit gets an anime, no one will be more excited than I am. But so just like more alternative music in anime is something that I really, really want to see. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else because that's a really big one for me.
I'll let you have that one because I was trying to think of overarching things like Lolicon and ecchi, which that's
more of the first, less of the second. Well, not that you said on here.
Yeah,
more ecchi, less lolly.
Yeah, I don't. That's a toughie.
More butts. Less like massive school. Distended boobs. More butts.
They're moving.
That's hentai has gone there, and anime will follow.
They're starting to learn that thick thighs save lives.
Yeah, Futomomo. Give me more Futomomo. More Ripe Peach.
Alrighty. So next one is by Capsule J on Twitter. Apologies if y'all have already covered this, but what's a good entry point for a Gundam noob? Now,
fantastic question.
Yeah. Now, first of all, if you don't know, there's like two major sections of Gundam. There's Universal Century, normally just called UC, and everything else.
Yeah.
If you want to get a feel for like what Gundam can do, I really think Iron Blooded Orphans is very interesting because it kind of
I agree with you, but
because it shows really heavily that Gundam is really based in politics and that there's always a strong anti-war message.
Yeah.
But at the same time, G Gundam is more fun than you'll ever have ever. So watch that.
Yeah, I would never ever advocate because I would be literally like Lance of Longinus through the heart by all Gundam fans at once advocate that Iron Blooded Orphans should be your first Gundam.
I'm just saying not UC.
Don't do Iron Blooded Orphans as like your third or fourth if even that. I would say if like because UC is the best.
Watch UC.
Part of Gundam.
I was getting there.
If you want a good introduction to UC, if you want to read some manga, read Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin. It's done by the original character designer. It's all hand drawn and hand painted. It is one of the most beautiful manga I've ever read in my life, and it literally is a retelling of the original TV series. which is the first Gundam thing ever, plus a bunch of cool new in-depth origin story stuff for sure.
What I was going to say, if you don't like the manga, they are working on the anime film series.
Several OVAs that are already
I think are
out.
Actually available on like Google Video, Google Play, whatever you want to call it.
They're very worth watching. They're very good. If you want to start with an anime, that's the place to start.
Watch UC, but if for whatever reason you want to try something that's not UC, that or Gundam Build Fighters. Gundam Build Fighters will give you a good idea for exactly what Gundam isn't.
Yeah.
But it will have some really cool robot animation.
I would say after you've introduced yourself to UC, probably watch Char's Counterattack and then watch Gundam Unicorn. You could probably knock both of those out in a weekend. Gundam Unicorn is a modern, from 2014, 7-part OVA series. Scored by Hiroyuki Sawano and featuring basically every Seiyu that ever lived. It is amazing. It's insane. It's the most Gundam-esque Gundam thing you'll ever watch.
I do want to say one of the reasons I say Iron-Blooded Orphans, though, is like I said, obviously the war thing. It's got possibly the strongest anti-war message of any of them. But also, if you're looking into getting into Gundam now, you're obviously a modern anime fan, and IBO it's a very modern anime.
Yeah. Just don't watch it first, because I feel like it has more impact when you know what Gundam's about, and then you watch this show and you're like, oh shit, they're completely fucking the Gundam formula in the best way. So yeah, I would just say, Gundam the Origin is about the best place to start, and I feel like that's why they made that thing. Also
because if you try to go back and watch the original now, it does not hold up.
No,
the story,
it's hard to watch.
The story holds up, the animation and everything else does not. It's a slog.
Yeah. Ain't Days to St. Nicholas Day at Vinny of AGC on Twitter. What's a bigger deal hitting streaming this year, Legend of Galactic Heroes or Space Battleship Yamato 2199?
That's tough.
It's Legend of Galactic Heroes, my question.
I'm the only reason I easily say that is because Yamato was already available legally. Yeah. And Star Blazers is already a thing in the US, so people know about it. The name, while not household, if you're an anime fan, you know what Star Blazers or Yamato is. Legend of Galactic Heroes, until very recently, was this amazing thing that people who like weird esoteric anime knew all about and shouted all about, but wasn't really in the mainstream eye. So I think now that it's finally available legally, that is a huge deal.
I don't think anybody thought that Legend of Galactic Heroes would maybe ever get streamed.
Nobody ever thought it was this impossible license. Who's going to be insane enough to license a 110 episode thing from the 80s and
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
I'm glad it happened. Also, the books, the Legend of Galactic Heroes books are licensed, and there's I think 4 of them out. I've read all of them, and they're really good.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. The next one. We are on John Smith at the Genki Guy. I like that name.
Great Twitter
Is there any media outside of anime that you've been enjoying? There's manga, novels, games, cartoons, live action TV, etc. We talk about games all the time, so we can skip that.
Yeah. Just tune into our Game of the Year podcast.
Yeah,
and hear us talk about games.
TV. Yeah, I don't watch as much Netflix as a lot of people, but I do have a lot of Amazon shows that I love. Mr. Robot is one of my favorites. Man on the High Castle, I tell everybody to watch. I finally did watch on Netflix Stranger Things, and now I'm all about that, and more importantly, all about Steve.
Steve Harrington. All hail King Steve.
Yeah.
The Fallen King. Yeah.
Yeah. We're pretty normal in that regards. I know Mark's a massive comic book fan. I can't say the same, but I do like the Marvel movies.
Yeah, I'm still trying to pick my way through Spider-Verse, which is one of the more recent Spider-Man storylines in which every spider being from every world ever comes all together. It's really crazy. Difficult. This is the introduction of Spider-Gwen for the first time, which was probably my favorite new Marvel character in a long time. I've just finished Stranger Things season 2 a couple weeks ago. I'm obviously fucking over the moon ecstatic about that thing. I love it. I love the direction that they took that whole thing in. Actually just watched the last season of Parks and Rec, just kind of off the... Man.
Yeah, that's another favorite.
Basically just ugly crying for a couple days straight. That was really
Office, good. All those
Yeah, Parks and Rec is... I really fucking like that show a lot.
You know my put on the background and watch show? It's Scrubs. It will always be Scrubs.
Yeah, Scrubs
I can watch Scrubs all the time, anytime.
Yeah. Other than that, I have actually been, I have cable just because it comes with my rent, comes with it like as part of my rent. I've been catching a couple episodes of OKKO on Cartoon Network every once in a while, mostly because Trigger did the opening animation.
I watched that on an airplane. It's pretty fun.
It's a pretty fucking fun show. Apparently, they just got Justin McElroy to do a villain in that show, which I don't know how that happened, but it's really awesome.
Cool. Part of this question was also manga. I read a ton. I read a lot more than I do. Than is healthy. One of my favorite ones that I'm reading now is it's pretty short and not a manga that a lot of people are reading, but it is getting an anime. It's called Karakai Jozu Takagi-san, and it just really tickles the like cuteness factor in me that I love. It's about two kids. I think they're in like 5th grade, and it's just this girl that has a massive crush on this kid and just relentlessly teases him. And every chapter, it's the same thing. It's her coming up with some way to tease him saying, no, I'm not getting beat this time, and trying to flip it on her, and then she flips it over again, and it's just like warm and lovely, and they're horribly in love, and I love it. It's fantastic.
I have 3 non-anime recommendations in genres of things that we haven't talked about yet. Manga, I started and then finished Vinland Saga this year, basically as soon as I touched it. It's easily one of the best manga I've ever read. Yeah, fucking hell of a story, and something that you never see in manga, which is incredibly historically accurate Viking story. It's pretty crazy. The first Sound Euphonium novel came out this year and is a incredibly well-written, very good, very gay thing. So go read that. It's out. And we just spoke about it earlier, but the Castlevania, like the 4-episode series, go check that out because that's also, again, pretty dope.
I do, before we move on, I do want to say that most of the reading I do is nonfiction. I read a lot of historical accounts, and I'm actually one of those people that reads a lot of the political books that come out from authors, like the ones that you see at Target all the time. I eat those up. They're very interesting to me.
I read a lot of Wikipedia. Wikipedia deep dives on history I am a huge Wikipedia otaku. Check out the what is it called? I want to say it's Loophole Upshot Annie test, which is one of the first like big nuclear tests in the 50s, where they actually recorded it on a kinescope, which is a sound recording device. And I listened to the audio of a nuclear bomb going off yesterday and was...
Were you shook?
Viscerally horrified.
Yeah. Now we're going to become death.
If you want to fucking read some crazy ass shit about a nuclear test that they actually opened up to the press and public to watch, go check that shit out. Wikipedia is real cool to terrify yourself existentially very late at night on. All right. You want to read this one?
Yeah. Hunter Holtmeyer at Holtmuir.
M-U-E-R.
Anyway, on Twitter, have any of you watched Food Wars? If so, what do you think? Yes.
We both watched Food Wars. You actually have read the manga as well.
Yes, I am still reading the manga.
Yeah. I love Food Wars. It's gotten very good.
Yeah, like there's not too much to talk about it, unfortunately.
We've talked about it a lot on the show.
We did last episode. We talked at length where it's at. It's a battle shonen about cooking.
Yeah, easily one of the best and most interesting shonen I've seen probably ever. It's really awesome, and I love every single character on that show. There's not a single character on that show I don't love equally as much as the rest. Antonio Gonzalez at Devil Gonzalez on Twitter asks, what is your favorite anime of 2017?
Idle Time Prepara.
Yeah, this is a loaded question. I'm gonna have to say,
just say Hero Academia. We can move on.
Yeah. I don't want to like not answer this one, but we have like a straight up like what are our favorite anime of 2017 episode coming at the end of this year that you should definitely tune into.
Not kidding about Prepara.
It is going to have to take something massive for me to not repeat my answer from 2016 and say Showa Roku Rakugo Shinju, because that show is almost a year old at this point, and it still affects me every goddamn day of my life, and I think will always affect me every day of my life. Anyways, Next question.
By Celia at Planets Twinkle on Twitter. Who would be your dream guest for Oh No Anime Radio? Mark's like, yeah. First of all, let's get it out of the way. Porter Robinson.
Yeah, I would say so. We're recording this on the day that he released his really awesome Virtual Self EP. His like side
so
project.
Good. I've listened to it 4 times already.
Yeah, I would say that Porter Robinson is number fucking 1 on our list of dream guests for Oh No Anime Radio. It would be beyond a privilege. I think we could just end it if he was ever on.
Here's a funny short story about Porter Robinson. And so we have interacted with Porter Robinson. There's a club. I'm going to get back to this with another answer too. There's a club in Akihabara called Mogra that streams now on Twitch. And they specialize in anime music, and Porter Robinson plays there fairly often when he's in Tokyo, which is great.
Yeah.
And we were throwing a party here. This was years ago already at MetroCon. And Porter Robinson's Snapchat is public. And I figured, we're doing it like Mogra. I've got a projector up of like anime clips playing. We're playing anime music. I'm like, I'm going to snap Porter Robinson. And he actually like replied to me like half an hour later. It was like, where is this?
He was like, yo, where is this?
And I'm like, oh shit, we're in Tampa. I was trying to bring some Mogra down to Florida. And he just replied like, that's dope.
He said, you guys are cool.
Yeah.
Which is the most gratifying
that's what it was.
That's ever
you guys are cool. I screenshotted that and I still have the picture somewhere.
It's the greatest thing that's
so
ever happened.
Porter, if you're listening, thank you.
And please come on our podcast.
Right? That was a crowning moment of my life, number 1 right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both have answers that we would give, like obviously like Tofu Beats, Teddy Lloyd, Taku Takahashi, any of the big, sort of like more anime related.
Taku, yeah, like you said, Taku.
Yeah,
let's get M-Flow. No,
M-Flow. In terms of people who like probably are more attainable that I'm gonna try in the next year sometime to get on the show that I would really like.
Probably high.
What's up?
Snacks is probably high.
Yeah, WT Snacks. Rasmus Faber would be one that I'd really like to have on the show.
That'd be so good.
Macross 8299 would be another one that I'd really like to have on the show. Grail, the amazing Jersey-based producer from Russia, would be really good.
I literally didn't think about this until now, but we should get Hentai Dude.
I'll see if we can get Moe Shop on the show. That would be good. I would honestly like to. I think it would be super fucking weird and awesome if we were able to get like some vaporwave producers on the show, like a Spree or. Can
we do one better and get some Simpsons wave producers on?
Jesus, we got fucking Blank Banshee on the show. That would be so crazy. I would also. I mean,
it makes you smile.
I mean, if we're talking about like absolute dream, like anybody from LiveTune would be pretty cool. KZ would be pretty cool. Obviously, anybody from Mogra that would be willing to entertain us.
What I want to do is actually, because I mentioned Mogra before, I want to tell like a short story. Mogra is the reason. First of all, it's my literal favorite place in the world, and it's also the reason I first went to Japan. When Panning Socking with the Garter Belt came out shortly after, I learned about this through 4chan at the time. Excuse me. Obviously, the soundtrack for that is mostly dance music, and Gainax, and I assume the production committee paid for a party to be thrown for Panning Socking, just showing the music for it and other music in that sphere, and they streamed it, and that was the first time I was introduced to Mogra. Mogra was streaming every Friday and Saturday at that point, and I was at tech school at the time where I didn't really do much, so for almost a year I sat there and I listened to them and I like learned about the DJs. I would talk to them on Twitter and stuff like that, and eventually I said, you know what, I need to go to Mogra. And I did, all because of that. They call it No Pond Night, which of course means no underwear. And that's like what started me going to Japan. And I'm about to go on my 5th trip. So any of the people there, like the manager Dayama is one of my favorite DJs. He's amazing. Wild Party plays there all the time and does a lot of mixes. In fact, I know a good way to contact him would be through Lucky Lotus, because one of my good friends runs Lucky Lotus, and he has played for them.
I would also like to see some Japanese hip hop. I mean, if we're talking about like actual like fully dreams that would never actually be realized, I would love to have DJ Crush on the podcast, even though that will never happen in a million fucking years. Evis Beats would be another one that would be a really good guest. Either of the producers behind Wednesday Campanella would be really good.
Oh shit!
Yasutaka Nakata, like
what's slightly like doable from there from Mogra is one of my favorite stories to tell there is I ran into the guy that makes the ICOTS music, and he was DJing, and I was wearing a Prepara shirt, and he's like, you like Prepara? Then you probably like ICOTS. And I'm like, I like Prepara more. And he's like, dude, I make the music for ICOTS. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I can get him over?
Yeah, that would be cool. Also, another completely unattainable dream one. Kiari Pamu, who apparently DJs now.
Sure. Why not?
That would be another great one.
We just share birthdays. I can do it.
Just also completely not related to anime, but another artist that is apparently DJ now, Bjork. I would love to have on the fucking podcast.
The most anime DJ of all time.
I mean,
Bjork.
It would fit about as well as anything else. I don't know. We have a lot. The fact that we managed to get Android 52 for our episode 1 has given me some extreme delusions of grandeur as to who we might be able to get. So I don't know. Stay tuned. Daft Punk, yeah. The Justice. We're going to get Justice on Ono Anime Radio.
Let's get Kraftwerk.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Well, we're done with this question.
Yellow Magic Orchestra is going to do a set on Ono Anime Radio. Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
I can't wait for Shiro Sagisu's DJ set.
Hiroyuki Sawano. Let's go.
He would probably actually do a DJ set for us.
All right. That was fun.
Final question from Mauricio Cuervo at Mark1246 on Twitter. Podcast question. So we can call 2018 the years of dreams and sequels. And I will say, Mauricio, his English is not his first language, I can tell. So thank you for trying, Mauricio. We love you. I'm going to try to paraphrase your question as best I can. So we can call 2018 the year of dreams and sequels for anime, since any anime that have been dead for a while are starting to come back. While I'm still waiting for my inevitable sequel to Cross Ange, which I knew you would like.
Yes.
What other anime project would you guys like to see brought back to life? It can be an adaptation or original material. And then he has another question, which I'll ask at the end. It will be a good wrap up.
I would, as far as Magical Girls is concerned, I would love to, and I'm surprised it hasn't happened, a new Creamy Mommy project.
That would be fantastic.
Which is, I mean, I have a freaking, like, here's a Prepara Creamy Mommy thing. Like, it's not like she's out of Japan. Like, they still know she exists. It's not absolutely insane. And it was legitimately a good show for the time. I think, like, mid-70s, one of the first legit Magical Girl shows, and I would love to see it revisited.
In a similar vein, I would love to see a new Cutie Honey TV show.
Yes.
That would be fantastic. Or a new movie or OVA or whatever the fuck they want to make. Toei, if y'all want to make a new fucking Cutie Honey anime, get at me. I'm here. I'll write a scenario. Cutie Honey is actually not sexist now. And it makes Mark feel good about watching it.
I always like think of these two in a pair, which I shouldn't, but a new Dirty Pair would be fucking great.
Yeah, that would be another one.
A new Dirty Pair would be really, really good.
That would be fucking cool. A big budget 2D Harlock movie in 2017 would be pretty fucking cool.
I did really like the CG film.
The CGI film was great, but it wasn't what I want out of Harlock.
Yeah,
I want like a Space Battleship Yamato 2099 treatment of Harlock.
Let's get a Galaxy Express thing.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Going again, Matsumoto will literally always be relevant.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened too, because, like, you know, fucking Legend of the Galactic Heroes is getting rebooted. Like, anything can get rebooted at this point. Let me think. What else? Obviously, I would love to see the inevitable third Gunbuster thing.
Yes. That is much needed.
Honestly, number one on my list would have been Fooly Cooly if they hadn't already announced it.
Dreams and sequels.
I was gonna say, this was already announced, but I don't know anything about it. I'd like to see anything more about Kenji Kamiyama's new Ghost in the Shell thing, whatever the fuck that is, because he's been doing some real weird shit with Production IG recently with what is it, Hiranehime, and also that weird CGI 3 movie Cyborg 009 thing that he did that's on Netflix that they didn't promote at all, and I didn't realize was out.
Yeah, that's on Netflix.
I don't know anything about that thing, and it's on my queue.
Here's a dream that's not a sequel. How about Netflix starts simulcasting? Related, did you see the news? I know this is already...
I didn't see the news. Maybe.
They are simulcasting Violet Evergarden in Singapore. So
sure
there's hope, but a lot of Singapore speaks English, so I'm hoping we get something from it.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I would say Devilman would have been another one, but we're getting that really fucking awesome Masaki Yuasa thing, Devilman Crybaby.
Yeah.
Honestly, any of Go Nagai's works that haven't recently, like, what the fuck would Mazinger look like? I mean, I guess Maz and Kaiser was recent enough to where they probably don't want to touch that, but what else? There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of like very old anime that you could always go back to the well on.
That's probably good.
I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something here.
There's always going to be more. You speed racing now.
Like, more Hajime no Ippo would be cool.
Yeah, it's been a while since New Generation and Challenger.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more of an inevitability than anything.
Yeah. Some good Initial D would be cool.
Nah.
Or someone picking up our project, Initial R.
How quickly we forgot.
Yeah, that's probably it, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I'm forgetting something here. Something good from the 80s that, like, it's just right on the tip of my tongue that I just...
Get a new Project A-ko? No. Okay.
No.
No?
No.
Sailor B is cursing you right now.
I know. Yeah. Final question, same guy. Any thoughts on the new Star Wars or any TV show you guys are watching right now?
We cover the TV show.
Star Wars
yes.
has had a rough fucking year, man. Star Wars has had maybe the roughest year that Star Wars has ever had, including the prequels, because at least the prequels came out and kept the same director. But yeah, the Han Solo movie is a fucking clusterfuck that probably will not be good. So many directors have left Disney Star Wars movies at this point that I'm wondering, like, what the hell is actually happening? Colin Trevorrow is no longer directing episode 9, and now J.J. Abrams is directing it again, which makes sense because he said he wanted to do that thing again, and like regrets giving Rian Johnson the job. And the whole Battlefront thing is really not a good look for them at all.
God,
so
I would love to hear what Disney's saying to EA right now.
For real.
That would be fun.
But at the end of the day, I am confident that episode 8 is going to be good. Rian Johnson is an auteur. He is a very good filmmaker. Everything I've seen of his, granted, has not been much, but I liked Brick and I liked Looper, so those are two good movies that have a very particular look that looks like he's carrying it over into the new one. I just want to see that Finn Phasma fight, man. That shit looks dope.
Yeah, I'm super excited for more Phasma.
Yeah, Phasma's just real cool, especially since she was super underutilized in the first movie. I'm really hoping that she has her time in the sun in the second.
If not, we got a third one.
That's true. Got one more chance.
You don't hire her and give her a fucking chromed out outfit without her being a big deal. Yeah.
I don't know. I've felt my faith as a Star Wars fan shaken more this year than I've ever have, and I lived through the prequels, man, and I get it, but you know, this is just, it feels weird. It feels like a weird time for Star Wars, but I'm confident that they can make it work. So
we're coming up on that movie, man. It's gonna
be we're also recording on the day that fucking first Infinity War trailer dropped, and I'm not one to get excited about Marvel movies, but
man. I was telling Mark earlier, I haven't gotten trailer goosebumps like that since the Force Awakens trailer.
Yeah. Well, they were fucking smart, and they actually carried a theme between movies for once, which is Alan Silvestri's original Avengers theme. Alan Silvestri is he's a mastermind, and he's a wonderful man, and he writes incredibly good film scores, and his Avengers theme is fucking awesome, and they used it in the trailer, and it was dope. And they should take a lesson from that and actually let people write better music instead of just using replacement shit. But yeah, that shit looks amazing. I'm like, really, it looks like the most comic book movie.
I'm excited.
I don't know what was up with Chris Pratt's face at the end of it though. What was that about? Why did he look like
that was him like about to say, Star-Lord, come on.
Why did he look like the guy from Children of Men though? That's my question. Whatever his name is.
Jeez.
I can't remember.
I'm awful with names.
I'm bad. Yeah.
I'm excited for that. That looks really good.
Yeah. I'm also excited for Black Panther. That also is going to be great.
That movie looks dope.
Yeah, Marvel is really killing it, and boy, let me tell you, DC is doing the exact opposite.
I have not seen Batman vs Superman, have not seen Justice League, and don't plan to.
Nope.
At least Wonder Woman was really good.
I can't wait for the Wonder Woman cinematic universe.
Yeah, let's just scrap everything. Just make it Wonder Woman.
Honestly, man, just destroy the DC cinematic universe from the ground up. Give Patty Jenkins everything.
I mean,
just let her do the shit.
She's the only one that's made like a super good one.
Just let her do the thing, man. She's good at her job. Just let her do the thing. Wonder Woman was great. I loved it. And speaking of people stepping on me, I'd like Wonder Woman to step on me and crush me like a tiny ant.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah.
So
solid episode.
Yeah. We only recorded for
7 hours.
2.5 hours.
It's been a while since we've done a long one.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels good, man. As that one shitty meme that was co-opted by neo-Nazis would say. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for us. Obviously, onoanime.moe is a place where you can find all of our stuff when it's actually online.
So, hey, that hurts. That was my fault.
Sorry.
But, so, yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed taking questions.
As we're leaving.
Okay. Damn it. So, I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed taking questions from y'all and would very much like to do that again. So, anytime you have a question, shoot an email, tweet us. We'll get to it. Email
is the preferred method, onoanime@gmail.com. Obviously, you like Twitter, we probably look at more than anything else, but email is the one that we put at the end of all of our videos. So, so that's going to do it for us this week. onoanime.moe. Obviously, go to youtube.com/onoanime and subscribe. That's where most of our content lives anyway. And we will see you next time. No yoni sensei ya imakoso. How about